Seconds.
2 seconds?
60.
Sarah, you ready?
60 seconds.
Okay.
52.
I'd like to call the meeting to order of the August 9th school board meeting. And we will start by having roll call.
Charles Blacklands,
Here.
Kevin Boyles,
Here.
Tom Hageland,
Here.
Ruth Nelson,
Here.
Bob Nystrom,
Here.
Jana Sjogren,
Here.
all present.
Okay, let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, just an announcement. This meeting of the Brainerd School Board is being conducted in accordance with Minnesota Statutes 13D.02. And this will be done also by interactive TV, so people can watch on YouTube. The maximum seating capacity for the public seating section with 3 feet of social distance being observed in the school board meeting room is calculated to be 23. This number of seats will be maintained. Meeting room 200 will be set up for extra seating and viewing of the board meeting. Face coverings are highly recommended for all unvaccinated individuals. Next, we have the approval of the agenda as amended. There were a couple things that were added. Number 5 and 6 were added today. Number 7 was already on the agenda, but it was brought up to number 7.
I move the approval of the agenda as amended.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion by Director Nelson, second by Director Boyles, to approve the agenda as amended. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, like sign, motion passes. Okay, next, I have an announcement that after conferring with Superintendent Larson, with other members of the board, I am going to submit my resignation as chair of the board. I'm going to continue on the board as a director, but due to personal and health reasons, I have to resign. So I'm hoping that the board will accept my resignation and that someone would make a motion to accept my resignation.
Is this immediately or following this meeting?
Yeah, it's immediately.
Okay.
Yeah.
I move to accept Chair Nystrom's resignation.
With regret, I will second.
Okay. We have a motion by Director Blackland, second by Director Hagelin to accept the resignation of myself as board chair. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion passes. Next, would you like to talk about number 6?
Yes, and so I will take over for the board at this time. At this time, I would ask the board to approve the appointment of a new slate of officers to the Board of Education, beginning immediately, and to fill the approved roles until the organizational board meeting, which will commence on January 10th, 2022. So the roles of the officers that are in line right now will move up. And so Ruth Nelson would immediately become the chair. Charles Blacklands, the vice chair. Clerk, Jana Sjogren, and treasurer, Kevin Boyles. And if approved, anything that Chair Nystrom has on the agenda to be leading would be led by the person who is selected as the chair of the board.
I'll move to approve.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Director Hagelin, second by Director Boyles to approve the slate of officers as presented by Superintendent Larson. Is there any other discussion? Okay, because other people could be nominated if you wanted to. Okay, hearing no discussion, all those in favor of appointing the new slate of officers as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion passes.
Thank you, Bob, for a job very well done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
Well, this is a little sooner than I expected, and Bob, we wish you well on any issues you have, and thank you for being able to continue to serve.
Thank you.
Your service is very much appreciated as being the longest term member of the board, so. Anyway, we're glad you're still here as a director. So we'll
Okay, thank you.
proceed with the meeting. And next up is Blueprint 181 project update with Damian Williams, and it looks like Mark. Anybody else?
Mark Needham.
Okay. Yep.
I'm on it. Good evening.
Good evening.
This is our bond improvements update for August 9th. Brainerd High School, working on Area 2, closing out the punch list. Same with the auditorium, working on punch list items. Area 10, we are working on in the pool area. We're backfilling the diving well. Area 6, working on the punch list. And then we had the Minnesota Department of Health inspection today, and it did pass. So we're moving forward there. We're slated to have occupancy on the 17th of August for that space. So that'll be all set for school start. The greenhouse, we're working on finishes and grading. Area 7, equipment tie-ins and startups. Area 9, that's rough-ins for the egress, and that is working in the hallway to get egress established for the weight room. That's been a hot topic for us. Exterior, we're working on the Quinn Street sidewalks, gutters, and preparing for the bituminous. And I don't know if you've been by the site lately, but we've been grading out the South Campus parking lots, and it's really starting to take shape. It's going to look really great. So, any questions at the high school? They've been a little less staffed than usual, just for the fact that we've been using all the staff at the elementary schools on the big summer slam push, but that will change after Labor Day. I've even taken some of our interns and I've been using them to take care of some ancillary tasks at some of the elementary schools too, just to keep up with all the contractors. So it's been busy. South Campus project update. Area A framing is complete. Area B footings are ongoing and the demo is complete. Area B would be the front entry area. Area C, below grade rough-ins are ongoing. This is over by where the new gym space is, the old auto shop. Area D and E, demo is complete, and then the main building site work continues. So South Campus again is, we're actually a little ahead of schedule. Things are going well. There's, again, a limited crew working there, but still getting a lot of good progress in place. Garfield Elementary, roof installation continues. Wood blocking and at the roof is ongoing. Exterior brick and kitchen at the admin areas are complete. Interior framing and sheetrock are complete. Kitchen finishes are being installed. FRP is installed. Working on ceiling work, getting ready to go into quarry tile. Mechanical and electrical rough-ins are going throughout. Paint, ceilings, carpet, casework are all in progress. Today we had roughly 40 contractors on site, 40 workers. And that space is not very large, so compared to the 3 schools, this is probably the smallest amount of space being affected right now. But we had 40 workers, and everybody's working long hours and weekends, so we're appreciating all of their efforts right now to get the work in place.
Do you want to talk a little bit about the kitchen so that everybody's aware of that?
Yep. So the kitchens are running a little behind. We are all set for able to get teachers moved in on time, get admin staff moved in on time. The kitchens, because of setup and inspections, we're anticipating about a 1 week delay. So Garfield's kitchen is actually further ahead than Riverside's and Lowell's, but they're all going to be real tight. But we're working hard to get to the finish line. So.
So
I'm sorry, go ahead, Lynn.
We met with food service today, and so for about 1 week, it'll affect Garfield, Riverside, and Lowell Elementary.
Yep.
But they'll have meals brought in from Forest View rather than the kitchens in their building.
And Alyssa's
we're on
super
schedule.
excited. Yeah, absolutely. And Alyssa's super excited about our new kitchens. So she's.
The cafeteria will be open for them to eat in, or?
Well, that's part
Yes.
of the push, yeah.
Correct,
To
yep.
get the cafeteria.
Yeah, we'll have cafeteria spaces. It's just getting through the inspections, final cleaning, making sure all the equipment's started up correctly, and
Yeah.
just the kitchen areas. So, yeah. Lowell, I'm gonna let Mark Needham talk about Lowell.
So for Lowell Elementary, just kind of high level review of it. We are moving into, or we're not moving into, we're continuing our finishes and wrapping up spaces as we're kind of moving along here. So we're starting to see some spaces done down in the lower level, and we've got punch lists scheduled with the architect and design team, kind of throughout the building and biting off little pieces where we can. So more specifically, we punched out 6 rooms in the basement last week, and we plan to do about 8 more this week, Thursday. So we've got the architect coming back out to start or to continue doing that. Otherwise, we're getting set to install doors in the lower level and specialties and basically stuff that hangs off the wall. And then we have one little section of flooring, or excuse me, a couple small sections of flooring to finish up down there. Otherwise, we're looking pretty good down on the lower level of Lowell Elementary. Second floor, which is the next space, that's kind of right behind the lower level. We've got wall, ceiling, floor finishes are all being installed. And then a couple of the rooms that I mentioned there are scheduled to be punch listed out there this week as well. Again, we've got doors coming in this week. We've got casework showing up this week for a handful of those rooms, and it's coming together pretty quick. And just we've got, for example, we've got 5 flooring trades or craft coming in this week or coming in tomorrow. So that's going to change rapidly here over the next couple of days. Lower level, first floor. We've got the drywall systems are complete. They've started taping and painting the last couple sections of sections of wall that we had left open. Feverishly working through the kitchen and getting prepped to start with Corey tile base and wood floor finishes in there. And then the overhead mechanical that goes on in that space, and as well in the delicate dance we have to do to get everybody above that ceiling and get all of their inspections and their scopes of work completed up there. And then maybe last but not least, down in the mechanical room, the boilers have been hooked up and they're getting ready to start, what am I trying to say, getting ready to start with startup of those and hook up a few of the last little pieces of piping. So they're 80% done and ready to go, so.
We had approximately 75 workers on site today.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of work happens when you have 75 people working long hours and weekends. So it's, again, amazing how fast it's turning now, so.
Yeah, and we're gonna get more tomorrow.
More than 75?
Yeah, we've got the five extra flooring guys coming in tomorrow,
Okay.
so it's all hands.
Great.
Any questions? Okay. Riverside Elementary. So again, similar place to Lowell. It's a lot of finishes, a lot of wrap up, a lot of spaces. But we have wall finishes and the cooler were installed in the kitchen, so that space is taking shape. It's pretty close to the same spot as Lowell is, and we're getting ready to start Corey tile in there shortly. Wall, floor, and ceiling finishes in Area C. That space is they actually hung all the doors in there today. We have a hallway for flooring, a few countertops, and some fin tube, but otherwise Area C is almost done. Like we anticipate being completely done in that space here by the end of this week.
And Area C is all the classrooms to the south
Yep.
from the entryway, so.
So all the rooms that the teachers need access to, that'll be wrapped up and just waiting for life safety to be approved so we can start moving stuff in. So we're on track for move-in plans there. Continuing through, bathroom tile was installed throughout the building, and they've got, they only have one bathroom left for grouting and tile to finish up. Otherwise, fixtures are being set in there, so that's coming along. Terrazzo started today, so they prepped the entire floor and are getting ready to start with placement of terrazzo here tomorrow and the next day. And we should have the terrazzo wrapped up pretty close to by the end of the week. Other items, the receiving area, all the stud walls were done, all the MEP end wall was done, and that's the new loading dock that we have out there, the receiving dock. So that's going to come together pretty quick because the finishes are not quite to the same level as, say, the classrooms are, so that'll get wrapped up here pretty quick as well. And then the athletic flooring was installed last week and painted today, and then striping will start tomorrow. So they're coming together pretty quick with that. Any questions on Riverside?
61 workers on site today.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I don't have 5 more flooring coming over there though.
So almost 200 people between the 3 elementary schools.
Brainerd Learning Center update here. So the design development drawings have continued. We started pulling together the DD estimate so we can start looking at some more refined plans and be more accurate with that, so that we anticipate presenting that to you towards the end of this month. So we're moving along there. Things are coming together pretty good. I know we're getting a lot of support from the school staff, and yeah. Any questions on that? I know it's kind of 2 bullet points. Not much compared to everything else. Okay. Wesby here. So schematic design has started. We held some user group meetings to confirm a few things and continue to develop the scope with the staff so they understand where we're going and what we're doing and what is part of the building project. We also had the architect and MEP engineers on site to look at some of the features that we've laid out in the drawings and reviewed in programming to make sure we can pull things together from a more detailed standpoint. So like specifically the entryways, and then how do we get more MEP through the shafts that we have and the spaces that we have available to us. So some more detailed development there. Any questions on Wesby?
That's it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And I have here that we have a motion, but we don't, right? There's nothing we need to
No,
act on.
we
from
were
you
under
guys.
we were
Okay.
under the threshold.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Okay, now it's time for our public input session, and we do have 20-some people speaking. So a couple of things, we do have a 3-minute limit. If someone says what you were going to say, you don't need to use that whole 3-minute. The board, and I think everyone here would appreciate if we could keep this to an hour at the most. So we'll start. And so when you come up, please leave I think you've already filled out your forms, but just say your names so that the board knows who you are. You're going to call them up? Is that?
Yep, so I'm going to read the first 3 names, so we just know because we have to manage through 200. So
Yeah.
Amy Bogart,
Okay.
Susanna Labuska. Thank you. We'll use speaker number 2 and Mackenzie Erickson number 3. And then I'll have the timer, so I'll give you a soft 30 seconds. Warning, okay? Sounds good.
Do we sit? Is that?
Yes.
Sure.
Oops. Okay. So my name's Amy Bogart. She said that. I have 2 students in the district. I have a 1st grader at Baxter Elementary, and I have a 8th grader going into 8th grade. I guess I'll just kind of dive in. I've prepared it just so that I don't lose my spot, but this is all very well, I've been thinking about it a lot. So going into this school year, we're in a very different place than we were a year ago. We know so much more about COVID this time around. We know about adequate levels of zinc and vitamin D. We have treatments like ivermectin. We have things that greatly reduce symptoms, greatly help reduce hospitalizations, and we have a vaccine. Minnesota is within a percentage point of 70% of its adults and the people available being vaccinated, including my husband and myself. What we also know is that the precautions that we took last year to keep our kids safe have had detrimental effects on them. We saw that personally in our house many, many times. My first point, I guess, is we require our children to wear masks day in and day out, breathing through wet, bacteria-filled cloth, causing skin rashes and sore throats, and that's just our personal experience. One of my children, despite the best efforts, I'm sure, by head staff, telling them that they were yelling at them that they were endangering everybody when they walked into a building and hadn't put their mask up immediately. And he also overheard another teacher telling a student that they could die if they weren't wearing their mask. We cut the hours that they were allowed to be in school, and at times didn't even let them step foot in school, isolating them from friends and teachers. Through communicating with our children's teachers, I know they were doing their best. They were in great communication with us, but we heard things like 98% of my, quote, 98% of my students have given up. I also heard that I've had to cut back on what I cover this year, and I heard that they had lowered expectations for their students just to get them through. We also know that depression and anxiety has gone up for almost 4-fold among teenagers, and that suicide attempts among teens across the nation are up 50%. And during the months where distance learning is higher, that went up to as much as 150% in some areas. These are just scratching the surface of the points that I would like to make, but I have 3 minutes. I believe that we failed our kids, and I'm not speaking about you. I'm talking about all of us. It's me included. We failed them. Oh, we failed them emotionally. We failed them socially, educationally. What I'm here to say is that we're in a different place, and I'm imploring you guys to make a decision because you have the authority. I know it's tempting to follow the CDC guidelines, but the CDC changes their minds repeatedly, sometimes daily, and we owe our children, let's see, sorry, I got rushed now. We owe our children more than that, basically, is what I'm trying to say. And I'm cutting off my stuff. I'll send it to you guys. You can read it if you want to. But I'm really just here because I want you to know that you guys have the authority to do that, and you don't have to go with the CDC. It's just a requirement. And I've been designated, so I have, there's been a petition going around Brainerd. You're probably aware of it. But we printed out all the names. There's 2,300 names approximately right now, and it's growing every single day, just so that you have the magnitude of it. How many people? This is 11 font, and it's single spaced. If you can pull it out. I can't even get it off. Okay. That's still not all of it. So there's a lot of people. So sorry I went over. I tried to talk fast.
Okay, next up is
Susanna.
Should I just leave it?
Hello, I'm Susanna Lamuska, and I did write this out so I didn't lose train of thought. My husband and I have been up in here in the Brainerd Lakes area for 8.5 years, a part of the Brainerd District for 5 years now. We have 2 children going into 1st grade and preschool. I am on 2 different PTOs and have always been involved as much as our time has allowed, as we very much believe parental involvement is crucial. This is not the easy thing to do. However, doing the right thing usually isn't easy, but for our children, someone has to stand up for them. I want to express my frustration and disappointment with the lack of transparency and communication from the district with Governor Walz's visit to Nisswa. Sending out an email at 10:32 the day he was coming is not good communication. Kids were already at Fun and Friends and parents were at work. This didn't give anyone options to be able to educate their kids on who he is, what his role is for our state, or allow parents to decide if they were okay with having their kids' pictures used for political publicity. You should be ashamed of yourselves, as time and time again, you guys have said you want to improve communication and be more transparent. You had the perfect opportunity to practice what you preach at school board meetings, but you failed. Moving on, in my wildest imagination, I have never pictured myself before a board fighting for kids' rights to breathe fresh air. Of all the issues we could be discussing, this would be the very last one, but here we are, imploring that in this matter you make the right choice, which is mask choice, not mandate. I am here asking you to take a step back from all the noise that bombards you, whether it's the media, the government, fear, or status quo, and really look at this from a child's perspective and their health. They just want to breathe fresh air, not be forced against their wishes to breathe through snot, bacteria-filled soaking wet masks for hours on end. What about the kids who don't get a clean mask every day? Our kids deserve to see smiles and smile at one another. I have to quickly share my personal story of what happened in March of this year to our 6-year-old after wearing the mask for so long. Her tonsils became so swollen, and she choked on food, which required us to perform the Heimlich on her 3 times. Over 3.5 weeks, we saw 4 specialists trying to get to the bottom of why she was choking, and in turn, refused to eat anything besides liquids for fear of choking. We went to Children's begging them to just take her tonsils out. They refused, as they said she had PTSD from the Heimlichs. 2 days after we were at Children's, they called me back and said, after talking with the top ENT at Children's, they had seen a huge surge in the last 6 to 8 months of all children presenting with, or of children presenting with all of our daughter's symptoms. We had to keep her home for 2.5 weeks due to our other child having a fever. In that time period, without wearing her mask, her tonsils returned to normal and she began to eat food again. I have one last question. In closing, I want to ask a question. What is it going to take for you as a superintendent, a district and a school board to choose our children, their rights and their freedoms over fear, over teachers' unions, over the CDC, over status quo, and everything else. Please, please choose our children.
Hello, my name is Mackenzie Erickson. I have 2 elementary-aged children at Garfield Elementary. My husband and I are both Brainerd High School graduates, and I'm a very active parent with the Brainerd School District. I have been a PTO member and president for the past 3 years and serve on the District Advisory Committee. I'm not an average parent. I'm not bragging about myself by any means, but I am very active in the school district. I take pride in the school district and I celebrate when we do great things. I've met with a few of you separately and think you've grown to know that about me. I'm here today to ask you as a school board not to mandate masks or vaccinations on a district level. And saying that, I understand there are parents and staff members who will oppose me, and that's fine. I believe in freedom and liberty. I believe in choice. I'm asking you as a school board to leave freedom and choice up to each individual person or parent. I'm in no way requesting that no staff member or student wears a mask or becomes vaccinated. I believe that is a personal choice. I am simply asking that you do not require masks or vaccinations. Like I said, I have met with a handful of you separately and told you I have simply stepped up and been a voice for a larger group of over 2,000 parents and shared beliefs that I have. If the district decides they will require masks and vaccinations of your students, your enrollment will drop drastically. I know your numbers are already down and going into this year, and I'm here to say they'll go down even further, leaving you no other choice than to make budget cuts. And we don't want this. We want to parent our children in regards to their health. My husband and I have taken the choice to stay and fight for freedom on behalf of our children. However, if these things become mandated, you may lose several students and parents like me. Parents who care, parents who volunteer. I have been around long enough to see the difference parental involvement makes in our elementary schools. Don't do this. Don't rob your staff of the help they desperately need. Don't rob the district of the federal funding each student brings in. I leave you with the final reminders. You are elected to focus on our children's education, not decisions on personal health or parental choice. You are a school board, not a health board. Thank you.
Okay, next 3 speakers, Shelley Raines, Mark Olson, Rick Felt.
Hi, I'm Shelley Raines, and I have just a question. Since there are 3 school board members on the Equity Task Force, will the minutes and the meeting be made public? Why or why not? Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mark Olson. I think you guys know me. Good evening. Very encouraging to listen to you discuss being transparent the last couple of meetings, and we have a few ideas to help you improve. There are a few things such as placing K-12 curriculum on your website. That would be a great start, seeing as how I just learned that it is extremely crucial to be very explicit when asking public information, otherwise you don't get anything. Transparency. Transparency means putting your phone numbers on the websites. Emails are good, but phone numbers, now that would be transparent. Just look at the city and the county phone numbers and email addresses. Both have them. That's transparent. School board, not so much. Only emails, and that, my friend, is very sad. We can also achieve transparency another very easy way by giving the time and location of committee meetings you folks have. There is nothing at all preventing you from announcing your committee meetings. We have a right to know what you folks do, whether it's when we're here at the meeting or in a committee meeting. Transparency, transparency. Well, that means letting us know when you're going to meet. Then there are community member committee meetings. We rarely, if ever, see any time when openings are available for us to apply. Never read it in the paper, never get it on your agenda. We should also be able to learn the names of the folks on the community members committees from the website. Can't find them. Funny thing, I'm pretty sure the city and the county, they do that. Transparency, well, that means phone numbers, meeting announcements, names, members, and what else? Oh, yeah, that's right, curriculum, K through 12. Thank you. I'm sure you can do that. But I have one more thing. Mr. Nystrom, you said on June 28th that you and the school board were threatened by some of us. You later specifically emailed a former principal and said that I personally threatened you and the board. The meeting is recorded. Watch it. Go listen to it. There's no threats, period. You also told this person that CRT is not in the district. You told the principal that, and you said it is the truth and not hyperbole. Well, you can't have it both ways, Mr. Nystrom. You weren't telling the principal the truth, and we only have your word about CRT.
Jeff, that's enough to say about a person.
That doesn't matter. He spoke it to me. He spoke it to me. No,
Jeff,
Mark. Mark, you spoke it to me.
Yeah, and what you said.
Bob, no.
No? Okay.
All you have to do is watch the tape, Bob.
I did.
Okay.
Watch the tape.
Yeah,
Watch
you
the
watched
tape.
it.
I
You
watched
watched it
it
very
3 times.
close. You threatened us.
Okay, next.
Because of
Demonic
your feelings?
possession.
Because of your
Demonic
feelings?
possession.
I didn't say that.
Yeah, you did.
I didn't say that. Read it. Watch it. Watch the tape.
Please, just sit down.
You started this, Bob, not me.
Oh,
Yes, you did.
How about June 14th?
Yeah, you started it. You started it.
Thanks, Mark.
Yes.
My name is Rick Felt, and I'm here to talk about the NEA. America's largest
Before you
teachers.
start, just a second. Just a reminder, we don't do personal attacks against anybody. We won't do any personal attacks your way, and we don't want any personal attacks to the board.
Okay,
We have a
excuse me.
very,
We had a personal attack.
we have a very
I said
hard,
the truth.
Okay, next.
we have a very hard job here, so let's go ahead. Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
I'll start over. My name is Rick Felt, and I'm here to talk about the NEA. America's largest teachers union has announced it backs the teaching of critical race theory in schools, wants to hire staff at a cost of $127,000 in their budget to fight back against those who oppose CRT, and has called for an October 14th rally to be held in honor of George Floyd's birthday. The National Educators Association recently approved a resolution to promote critical race theory through its existing channels, work to fight back against opponents of the practice. It also wants to assemble a team to teach it to union members and create a national day of action to start a dialogue about systemic racism on October 14th, George Floyd's birthday. The resolution reads that the NEA will provide an already created in-depth study that critiques empire, white supremacy, anti-blackness, anti-indigeneity, racism, patriarchy, I don't know, I can't even pronounce this word, patriarchy, capitalism is now against, for whatever reason, ableism, anthropocentrism, and a few other forms of power and oppression in the intersections of our society. It continues to say that the NEA plans to publicly, through existing media, convey its support to the accurate and honest teaching of social studies topics, including truthful and age-appropriate accountings of unpleasant aspects of American history, such as slavery and the oppression of discrimination of indigenous, black, brown, and other peoples of color, as well as the continued impact of this history has on our current society. The association will further convey that in teaching these topics, it is reasonable and appropriate for curriculum to be informed by academic frameworks and understanding, interpreting the impact of the past on current society. The project, in the words of the NYT, aims to reframe the country's history by placing the consequences of slavery and the contributions of Black Americans at the very center of the national narrative. A number of historians have knocked this project for putting ideology ahead of historical understanding. And in April, 37 Republicans, led by the Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, demanded that the U.S. Department of Education not teach the 1619 Project. In addition to its plan, the NEA, now get a load of this, will join with Black Lives Matter at school and the Zinn Education Project to create National Day of Action on October 14th. And also, we have, by the Constitution, this board, from the ground up, has every authority under the Constitution that if we deem that a mask mandate is unconstitutional, you as a board, we as a community have the right by the Constitution to say no to anything that is unconstitutional. So I would recommend you that we have full authority to do that. Thank you.
Okay, next three speakers, we have Mike Hoff, Angel Christensen, and Amy Borish.
Hello, everybody. My name is Mike Hoff. I don't have anything written down. I truly understand the position that you guys are in. It's a tough job. I've sat in similar positions as well on city council. And I understand that I'm the one that did start the petition for no mask, and by no means is it a threat or anything like that to anybody. It's just allowing people to give their own choice. If you choose to wear a mask at school, if a staff chooses to wear a mask at school, that's their choice. If a child or a parent chooses that they don't need a mask at school, it should be their choice as well. There's been numerous studies out there. There's 3 studies from the NIH that say that masking does not work. Dr. Osterholm just the other night on CNN during an interview stated that anything short of a properly fit N95 mask is doing minimal, if anything, for an aerosol transmitted disease. So I'm just asking for our kids and their friends, their staff, their teachers, they all need to see each other's face. They need to see each other smile. They need to see each other's emotions. That's how they build their character. That's how they build their person. So I'm just asking that when the choice does come, that you do not make it a mandate, but a choice. And do not pressure anybody to wear a mask or to not wear a mask. That's all I have.
Hello, my name is Angel Christensen, and I'm here on behalf of my 11-year-old son who goes to Forest View, myself, and others in this community who have the same vision in the well-being of our kids. We have been compliant. More importantly, our children have been compliant and have endured the mask-wearing nonsense long enough. I want to first start with a warning on the box of masks. The Food and Drug Administration states that the authorized face mask must be labeled accurately, may not be labeled in a way that misrepresents the product's intended use as a source of control to prevent SARS. The letter specifies that labeling may not state or imply that the product is intended for antimicrobial or antiviral protection, related uses, or as infection prevention or reduction. Common sense. The warning on the box speaks for itself. Whether purchased at Costco or from a healthcare facility, the warning is the same. The masks do not prevent anything. They do, however, impede oxygen intake, harbor bacteria, thus the reason children are experiencing headaches from the constant intake of carbon dioxide. These issues have the effects on the ability to concentrate cognitive learning of our kids. One might ask, knowing these things, what could the reason be to enforce something that has more risks than benefits? One-word answer: control. Let me make the following clear. This serves as notice that the mandate for any individual to wear a face mask against COVID-19 for employment, attendance at a university, or any other institution violates federal law. All COVID-19 masks, whether surgical, N95, or respirators, are authorized, not approved, or licensed by the federal government. Emergency use authorization only, which means they may merely be effective. These products are by definition Emergency use products, by definition, are experimental and thus require the right to refuse. Under the Nuremberg Code, the foundation of ethical medicine, no one may be coerced into a medical experiment. Consent of the individual is absolutely essential, and that was taken away from our children last year and us. Any mandate requiring individuals to wear a face mask conflicts with Section 360 BBB 1, 2, and 3, which provides that a person must be informed of the option to refuse to wear the device. Liability for forced participation in a medical experiment, including possible injury, may be incalculable. I'll tell you what is incalculable. to know how many parents had increased medical expenses due to taking their kid to counseling appointments for depression and other issues, headaches, you name it. The physical and mental health of these kids outweigh any system that our local and state government or the school board has done by trying to enforce this unlawfully. I am here not to urge or persuade any decision on the mask, rather, but to let you know that previous federal laws put in place to protect us and our children from the unjustified tyranny will be followed as we move into the new school year. We as parents are awake and ready to make sure our kids receive a normal learning environment.
Okay. Thank you very much.
I've got to finish.
Well, your time is up, ma'am.
One thing.
We got 16 people after you.
Thank you.
No, there's a 3 minute.
It's short.
No, there's
It's
a
2
3-minute limit
seconds.
here. No.
It is my understanding, based on the federal laws, that this board has already enforced previous mask mandates unlawfully. Therefore, this decision does not even need to be made, as this board has no authority to do so.
Okay, that's
If as
enough.
school
Thank
board
you.
members you wish to make laws or enforce laws, I
Who's the
recommend
next
you run
person
for
to come up?
Congress
Be
or
respectful, please.
I recommend you run for Congress or go into law enforcement instead of continuing to misuse the powers given to you by we the people of this community.
And you can run for school board. Anybody in this room can run for school board, and that's next year. Yeah, great.
There are children.
There are children too.
You don't own my child. You don't own my child.
You don't have to.
Okay.
No, you don't own my child.
Are we done? Can I?
You can speak.
May I? Thank you. I didn't plan to speak tonight. I had.
Be quiet, please. Everyone quiet. State your name, I'm sorry.
My name is Amy Borish.
Okay, thank you.
I had no plans to speak tonight. I was coming to observe. I just wanted to see what was going on. The reason I'm speaking is twofold. One, I'm not here to really address the board. I'm here to address kind of the people behind me. I understand. I hate this thing. I hate it. I've taught dance classes with this on, and I'm going through menopause, so y'all, it's hot. I get it. But I've seen the other side of this. I had the unfortunate privilege of being the spouse of somebody who was put in the intensive care with regular COVID. Somebody who is healthy and mountain bikes and is not overweight, doesn't smoke, doesn't drink. He does all the things right, other than indulging in too many cheeseburgers. He does all the things right. And I watched him struggle to breathe. I watched him not be able to walk across the room. I watched him have to wake up every hour on the hour for 3 nights to check his oxygen stats because he would sit still and they would drop into the 70s. And I have a 23-year-old fitness instructor daughter who also was sick with this. And she still, 10 months later, cannot sing. She's lost all ability to sing. It has damaged her vocal cords and her voice. And she's a teacher, a fitness instructor, and a dance instructor. It's part of her livelihood. She still has stamina issues. Now, I get it. It's not going to happen to most people. I understand. But what if it's you or your child or your husband? And what if it's a little kid who can't fight this? These suck. I understand they suck. But I've heard you specifically said they're not a health board. Shouldn't be their decision. But then we don't want to listen to the CDC or the Minnesota Department of Health or any medical center. Call the U of M, call Mayo, call Rochester. Any of those well-respected health facilities will say that these help. They help. They're not 100%, but they help. I'm just telling you.
Let her speak, please.
Please, just let me just finish. And you can, I know I'm not going to change anybody's mind. That's right. But what I'm saying, Renee, stop. Let me speak. I know I'm not going to change your mind. But I'm saying I work with kids, and they take these pretty much in stride for the most part. The kids I've worked with have all taken them in stride. They don't like them, but they take them in stride. And at the end of the day, whatever you folks decide, if you go by the statistics and you go by the medical advice of medical professionals, I will support you. I will support it. I just want you to know that there are community members here who trust that you have the best interests of children at heart and who trust that you are not trying to be a dictatorship and you are not trying to do anything awful or horrible. None of us want this. None of us. But you have support in this community, in spite of what you might see here. Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Our next 3 speakers, Natalie Davidson, Doug Kern, Candy Murdoch.
And just a reminder, everyone, to stay quiet and let the speaker speak.
Is it Candy or Cindy?
Natalie.
This is Natalie. Is it Cindy?
All right. My name is Natalie Davidson. I'm a mother of 3 children, 2 of whom are already in the school district and 1 who is at home with us currently. I will not be removing my mask today because most of this people in this room are a health risk to my immune-compromised child. Right. My job is as a data analyst and as a data architect. I spent today doing some data modeling based off of the numbers specifically for Crow Wing County. When I emailed a number of you earlier this year, you asked for us to look at numbers specific to Crow Wing County. Based off of the information as to our population, our current rate of vaccination, our current numbers in terms of COVID cases, and our expected increase over the following 4 weeks. This is what I found for the first day of school, for the first week of school. At our current rate of infection and the expected increase in infection, we are expected to have between 201 and 403 cases weekly in Crow Wing County. That is 28 to 62 cases per day. Of those, approximately 54 of them will be of children 18 and under, and 95% of those will be school-age children. Based off of the research that I've done with regard to information from Harvard, from Johns Hopkins, from Yale, and from several other peer institutes, approximately 15% of children 18 and under get long COVID. That would be 8 cases per week of children 18 and under getting long COVID. And approximately 2% of children are hospitalized. In our county alone, that would be 1 to 2 children every single week that would be hospitalized. And that approximately, of that, 1 child every 2 weeks would be sent to the ICU. This is all based off of the data of our community has done nothing to require mask mandates. Currently, there is no mask requirement within our schools. Our children cannot be vaccinated, and this is not to also take into account those children who are immune compromised. I hate to give you these numbers, but that is my job daily, and I wanted to give you the reality of what will happen in our community if we don't do anything. Thank you so much.
So I'm referencing the July 19th school board meeting. In American history, I learned about the Indian territories, the wars, the Trail of Tears. I learned all of that from my history teacher. We even learned about the local battles like in Cross Lake, the battle that happened there on the lake. I was appalled last month to hear that the representation that from people that sincerely believe only bad things happened to the Indian nations when the white man showed up. There were bad things throughout history. There was not all good. I'm so thankful that I had a history teacher, Mr. Mead. You know, I honor that man. He taught me all of American history, and it was very, very good. And I think we should teach all of American history from beginning to end, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I got a quick equity story, my short version. My son was assaulted 2 times on school property. He had a tooth knocked out, got kicked in the groin where he couldn't pee for a month. When I saw the no bullying signs when we took it to the school, I believed we'd get a resolution. To my surprise, I was asked if I were, or my son was, colored, homosexual, or of a different religion. We were not. All we were was white, male, conservative, and Christian. We were told that we are not a protected class, and the student that attacked my son was of a protected class. And because of that, we were told by the officer and the school officials that there was nothing we could be done as the student was a protected class. And this was not a hate crime. So my biggest regret of that time period is that we did not know enough at that time to bring this before you guys, before the board that was here at that time, or bring a lawsuit, because we had medical bills out of the deal. One of the things that I asked at one of the previous board meetings was about Timothy Lensmeyer. The question I had, is he hired as a consultant for the school year 2021 through 22? And I haven't heard if he actually is hired as an equity consultant for this upcoming year. And I really would like to hear that answer. And if he is hired, how much was he paid? So thank you. Oh, I said that pretty fast.
Thanks, Doug.
Hi, I'm Cindy Murdoch. Not Candy, that's fine. I am a licensed teacher in the state of Minnesota, early childhood K through 6. I have worked in the public schools. I work with early childhood and family education and in parenting, and then also with community ed classes through the years. For me, I just like to put out information. Now, my request is that for the sake of our children's well-being, we want no masks mandated. Parents should have the freedom to make that choice. By the way, the FDA recently came out and declared that the PCR tests are not accurate, that they have false positives, I believe 96% of the time. So what are we basing cases on? Now, last year, March 2020, I started doing some of my own research. So I'm quoting off these sites. I went to the CDC site. It does not recommend that people who are well wear a face mask to protect themselves from respiratory diseases, including COVID-19. Rather, experts cautioned that putting on a mask without proper fitting can actually increase your risk. The World Health Organization only recommends the use of a mask in specific situations. This is quoted right from their site. If you have a cough, fever, and difficulty breathing, you should seek medical care. If you do not have these symptoms, you do not need to wear a mask because there is no evidence that they protect people who are not sick. Okay, then I went to the Minnesota Department of Health site. This is March of 2020. Wearing a mask does not protect you from others who may spread the virus. Okay, now I went and picked up a box of masks for children. And on the back of this, it says, not intended for antimicrobial or antiviral protection. It also says use only under adult supervision. Discontinue use if child exhibits discomfort. So my question is, why are we using these if they don't work for antiviral? While the masks serve no protection, 3 minutes after you place a mask on a child, the carbon dioxide levels inside that mask has risen to 6 times the acceptance limit. So it's lowering oxygen. They're breathing in all kinds of viral things. Last year, we had viral pneumonia, lung cancer, and staph infections directly related to wearing of masks. So I just would really appeal to you to keep our freedom of choice. Thank you.
Next we have Ted Williams, Dale Mink, and Terry Robitz. Claire Williams. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Claire Williams, and I have lived in the Brainerd Lakes area my whole life, and some of you may know me as a longtime business owner. But far more pertinent to these proceedings, I am a mom, I'm a grandmother, and I'm a warrior for truth. I am here tonight greatly concerned about the direction of our education at ISD 181. Although there are many subjects of concern, my focus this evening is regarding your July 19th meeting, giving approval to the commitment of equity. The creeping in of CRT indoctrination, or whatever label being used to disguise it, and still undecided policy for mask wearing. Equity has now come to mean the functional opposite of equality. Equality means equal treatment to all citizens, which the Constitution protects. Equity means treating Americans unequally to ensure that outcomes are equalized. Equity in CRT drives policy and action by race or gender or other labels, deciding whether to treat a person as a victim or a person of privilege, no longer making decisions based on the content of one's character or behaviors. I have chosen one of your items outlined in your equity letter from the July 19th board meeting, and it reads, cultivate a school culture in which brave work and tough conversations are the expectations to ensure that each child feels safe, accepted, heard, and included. I'm wondering, what is your definition of brave work, and who decides this? The first goal stated is children to feel safe. We already know what makes a child feel safe. A smile from their teacher or principal or their friends. A facial expression is most powerful in the simplest way of giving a child reassurance, especially in the younger ages. There is no message of safety when looking at faces covered in masks, but instead tells a child that everyone around them may infect them with a virus, may make them sick or even die, and this is awful. The CDC performed a study which showed that 85% of those who contracted COVID-19 during July 2020 were mask wearers. Further studies have shown that masks are damaging to wear for any length of time, especially for children. And I have paperwork here I'm going to leave with you if you are willing to read it. There are 47 studies confirming ineffectiveness of masks for COVID and 32 more confirming their negative health effects. Further,
30 seconds.
I won't go to that. So the second goal, to feel accepted. We should never place labels on children. We should never divide them into separate groups. It is not the place of our education system to define any person, to normalize certain ways of thinking or to normalize certain lifestyles that conflict with a family's Christian beliefs. The proper goal is simply teaching kindness. Never should a child be taught to accept compromising their Christian beliefs. Acceptance is wrong. It's the wrong approach, and teaching kindness compromises nobody's personal beliefs.
Okay, thank you very much.
We
need to continue.
I'm close. I'm close.
Yeah.
And if anybody wants me to sit back here, I will. To be heard. Are those disagreeing with our school leaders being heard? Why are there 23 seats in this room? 23 seats. Will our students be heard if they stand up against equity, CRT, or having to wear a mask? And so far, it seems to be the answer is no.
Okay.
To feel included.
We need to go on to our next one. We're running long on these comments.
I'm almost done.
That's okay.
The last is included. I'm going to address it. Again, kindness promotes the feeling of inclusion, not labels or unproven concepts. Education has evolved into telling students what to believe instead of teaching them how to think critically and independently.
Okay,
in closing,
thank you very much.
In closing, your stated goals are driving education in the wrong direction, and ironically, it is the people that are pushing back that are trying to save public education. It's going in the wrong direction, and if we continue this way, the silent majority is not going to be silent anymore, and there's going to be failure in the public schools.
Hello, my name is Dale Menk. I have had 5 children in this school district, one of whom who is still going to school here. I'm going to start off with a number. 45.24%. As of yesterday, that was the percentage of people vaccinated in Crow Wing County. I would bet odds that the number of school-aged children who are eligible to be vaccinated, that percentage would be lower. And I'm not even talking about the 12 and unders who can't be vaccinated yet. The reason I wear this mask, everybody, is not to protect myself. The reason I wear this mask is to protect other people in case I'm carrying the virus. Now, with less than 45% of our kids vaccinated, what are the odds that one of them is going to bring the virus, especially the Delta variant, which is affecting younger people now, into our school and spread it around? We know the Delta variant is more infectious. It affects people more seriously. Why would we not protect as many children as we can by asking our kids to wear masks to school? Why would we not? There are some people here that are going to say, I'm wearing this mask to virtue signal. Well, isn't protecting the most vulnerable among us a virtue? I have a guy at work who's considering not sending his kids to school this year because he has a condition for which he is forced to take immunosuppressants. If one of his kids brings it back home, he has a good chance of having very serious consequences from this virus. I have a friend who has a child battling leukemia. Her kids want to come to school, would love to come to in-person school. What happens if one of her kids brings that virus home to the kid who's battling leukemia and has no immune system right now because of the treatments for that? Now let's talk about my kid. I know that we didn't want to go to distance learning last year. I decided to keep my kid home. My kid has OCD. Because of staying at home and because of everything going on with the pandemic, it got more serious. My kid wants to come to school. If my kid has to come to school with a bunch of people that are unmasked with rising infection rates from the Delta variant, that could have very serious consequences for my kids. I'm just asking you to have the courage to protect the most vulnerable among us. Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Terry Frovick, and my remarks this evening are to honor and give thanks for Reuben Wenzel, who was a teacher of the year when I was growing up. My favorite teacher of all time, 9th grade high school or 9th grade English teacher. I'm sure that whatever you need to do as a school board, whether it's with masks or not with masks, will be what you decide is best for the health of the students in this school. I'm confident of that. But my remarks this evening are to honor teachers. I want to remind us all of the quality and integrity of Minnesota teachers. Our teachers will challenge America's subtly distorted historical narrative. Teachers who educate will explore documents and invite stories told by Indigenous and Black authors side by side in our social studies textbooks. Our teachers will invite us into conversations that imagine a future of equality and equity for all Americans. Today's teachers and their learners will lay a new foundation for working together. Historical integrity in the classroom will open doors, remove walls, and roll out the carpet for students who want to contribute to an anti-racist America. Minnesota teachers telling the truth will promote an enlightened democracy that creates equity instead of outrageous wealth and chronic poverty. The marginalized will find their voice when truth is taught. Teaching truth creates life-changing relationships. This generation's teachers, Brainerd and Pequot Lakes teachers in particular, and their students are the greatest gift to this community. It's happening. Nothing will stop it. Thank you, school board, for supporting teachers.
Next, we have Aaron Wilmot, Amy Aho, and Alexis Marcello.
I'm Erin Wilmot, thank you. I wanted to say, first of all, for all of you who are here today, I've corresponded with all of you via email before, and I just want you to know that I appreciate your time and the effort and all of the things you do outside of these meetings to answer questions and to be transparent to the parents of kids in your district. I feel like a lot of what has kind of run through my head. I'm a better off-the-cuff person. If I write it down, then I'm going to blank out and I won't say what I want to say. And a lot of the things that I've thought about all day have been said by other people in this chair today. And as someone who has children in this district, one of whom is old enough to be vaccinated and one who isn't, like Amy said, it's hot. I am hot in this thing today. It's not comfortable and I don't love it. But have I wore one of these every day at work since March 2020 to no ill effect? And my children when we're out in public running errands? Yeah, and I know that story isn't the same for everyone. We've all got different experiences here, and Well, Google is a great thing, you know. I like to be informed, I like to find things out there, but to have the filter to sift through what is good and what is iffy and what is clickbait because somebody makes money if you click on it is hard for any regular person to decipher. So, you know, at the end of the day, all I can say is that, you know, good faith and good science is always going to be greater than convenience and ego. And compassion is something that isn't just, you know, latently in us as humans. Compassion is a skill and a commitment that we make to one another every single day. It doesn't just happen. And to look at all of the faces of the people here and the people who are behind me, they say it's hard to hate people close up, and I can't see a face of anybody in this room that I would wish the experiences that have occurred in my life due to COVID on any of these people, despite the fact that we may disagree about this issue. And so I just want to say again that I trust you'll make the decision that is in the best interest for all of our children moving forward. And, you know, there will be enrollment fluctuations either way. It's going to happen regardless. So thank you for doing what you do for the best interest of our children and for your time today. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Amy Aho. You all know me. And I'm reading a letter tonight on behalf of my father, John Ward. Before I start, I just want to mention that probably most of you know he has been diagnosed with stage 3 esophageal cancer. And our family has decided to mask back up because his team of doctors at Mayo have recommended it in order to keep him healthy so he can get through radiation, chemo, and surgery to have a chance to survive this terrible disease. Okay. I wanted to be at the school board meeting in person, but current personal health issues do not allow me to be. However, I do have some thoughts for the board members about masking up. Masking up will help keep our schools, businesses, and communities safer and open. Masks and vaccines work and keep us all safer, so let's do it. My wife and I spent last week at Mayo Clinic. Side note, it was a terrible week, probably the worst week of our life. I want to share what we witnessed while there. Most folks, including myself, my dad, are at Mayo because of very serious health matters. Most also have a compromised health status. My wife and I did not observe anyone arguing about masking up or getting vaccinated or who was right versus who was wrong. What we did observe is everyone being masked up, both inside and outside. We saw and felt compassion, love, acceptance, helping each other out, empathy, courtesy to all, giving to those in need, crying tears of joy and sorrow, hugging in support of those struggling, couples holding hands because they loved and supported each other, and so many other positive and caring examples of genuine human concern for each other. This attitude was not only at Mayo Clinic, but also permeated to the surrounding hotels, restaurants, stores, and people. We felt like we were in a much different and beautiful world. We asked ourselves, why can't the whole world be like this? It can, and it starts with each and every one of us. If we did that, what a wonderful world, school, community, and family we would be. As we ponder whether to protect and care about each other by masking up and getting vaccinated, let's remember to be kind and listen to our hearts. If it is to be, it is up to me. What the world needs now is love, sweet love. Board members, listen to your hearts, and thank you for your public service to our district and our community. Thank all of you.
Hello, my name is Alexis Marcello. I am a teacher and parent in the school district. It is no debate that the last year and a half of our schooling has been an unprecedented one. We have seen both sides as a teacher and a parent. I'm asking you to consider some things as you're moving into this year. Although recommendations from the state and federal level do have some best interests in mind for when it comes to our students. It doesn't come with all of our data. It doesn't come with all of our history and our experience within our community. Although we have a responsibility to others, we have a responsibility to our students to do what is in the best interest as a whole. Please consider the number of our students at our school who actually got COVID and not the number of kids we sent home because they sat near someone. For the last year and a half, I've watched my personal children go from great students to students who barely are getting by at times. No lack of effort here, I assure you. I have heard from parents that they aren't sure what to do, and I could sympathize with those feelings. I have heard my kids cry and complain that they just wanted to be normal. And this sentiment was backed by my students and their parents. I watched the students disappear behind their screens and their masks feeling more disconnected than ever before. I walked past a student this summer and did not recognize them because they weren't wearing a mask outside. As you know, education is about what we teach, or just about what we teach, but the connections we make with our students and overall experiences in schools. This includes their friends, classes, extracurricular activities, and overall community. To the best of every teacher's efforts, this last year was harder to make that happen than ever before. I feel that the morale on our campus diminished from the moment that COVID arrived, despite our best efforts. I went from only ever having groups and opportunities for collaborations in my classroom to having rows and students who wouldn't collaborate at all. The CDC says that during 2020, the proportion of mental health-related emergency department visits among adolescents 12 to 17 years increased by 31% compared to that during 2019. I'm not going to speak to the effectiveness of masks because there are many conflicting studies. I don't believe that most kids wear them in the ways that they are meant to be fully effective for everyone. I have seen the hypocrisy with policies when my students are in swimming and would take their mask off to put it in a bag underneath of the swim deck for somebody else to put their mask right on top of it, and then to get out of the swim pool, put the mask on their face again, being soaking wet. It doesn't work the way it's supposed to. It doesn't make a lot of sense either. Most of us have seen the Petri dish example of what stops from exiting, but I encourage you to think about how this sits on our students for 8 hours. Yes, COVID is still here and Delta is making its face known. However, it is proving not to be as deadly. And I think we need to keep that as a consideration. A peer-reviewed study said Scientific Advisory Board showed that links to positive emotions and increased immune system and negative emotions to decrease immune systems. We need to do everything in our power to increase the positive emotions. I think this can be done with normalcy. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Katie Morsch. I'm the mother of 3, one of which is in elementary school and one that's in preschool. I asked my kindergartner what her favorite part of kindergarten was, and it was being with her friends and science class. And when I asked her what the worst part, it was at the end of the day, because she had to leave her friends and her teachers. Never, not once, through the year, did my child mention or complain about her mask. You know what she did complain about? Her shoes. She hates wearing shoes, and she would walk through broken glass before she put shoes on. And every day we fight with her to put her shoes on. But then we explain the importance of shoes, and eventually, because she loves school, and we all know we have to wear shoes to go to school, she puts her shoes on. We also don't love masks. She didn't love masks either. But we also explained to her that we wear a mask to protect our friends and our neighbors, and that in our family, we follow the science, and the science learns and it grows. And right now, the very best thing for her in our community is to wear a mask. And then she wears a mask. And when she comes home, she forgets to take her shoes off, and she forgets to take her mask off. I want her to be in school all year long, and she wants to be in school all year. When I drop my child off at school, I expect that her teachers, the staff, and ultimately the school board are all erring on the side of caution to keep my kids safe and in school. I expect in all that you do that you are following the very best professional advice and recommendations, whether that be in teaching or in the public health precautions. And while I appreciate the opportunity for you to hear from the public, as far as I can tell, none of the people in this room are expert epidemiologists or public health professionals, aside from maybe the data analysts, which I really appreciated. I know that we have many that have done extensive Google searching and YouTube watching, but ultimately you should not be listening to any one of us. You need to listen to, follow, and enforce the very best and most current, not 2020 studies, the very most current science and recommendations to keep our kids safe and in school. And if you're going to disregard those recommendations, where does it end? Are you going to disregard hand washing for your kitchen employees? Are you going to allow my child to come to school shoeless? Because that would make my job a lot easier, actually. Follow the professionals' guidance and recommendations and keep our kids in school. If you're going to take anything away from this meeting, it should be the large amount of people that are unmasked, despite your recommendation that you read at the beginning of this meeting, despite the low vaccination rate and the substantial community spread in our county. I'm disappointed at the lack of integrity of those that are here without masks, many of which I know personally are not vaccinated and also not masking. If masking is not enforced and mandatory this school year, or until the experts and professionals learn something new, I fear that the examples of the parents seen here will trickle down and will not see the level of mask wear we need to keep our kids safe. Please, 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 please follow the science. Listen to the professionals and not the loudest people in this room. Thank you.
They don't have masks on. Wake up.
Hi, I'm Nick Hillman. I want to start out by saying that I think masks should be the choice of the parent, not for the school board or the state to decide. As an RN in a hospital, I can tell you that the real science and testimony that masks don't work and the virus passes right through. This is the CDC, NIH's own research studies, multiple of them out there, as already previously stated. I won't get into all that. They're just refusing to acknowledge it to the public so that they can move the agenda forward. Masks cause also a plethora of health problems, from minor to severe. As already mentioned, I won't get into that either. The parents should choose if their kids need to wear a mask or what will be next. If a mask is required to attend public school, it's pretty easy to see that the same will happen with the vaccine. It's about choice, the freedom of choice and medical freedom. This is America, land of the free, not Nazi Germany. If you want to kill the virus, turn off your TV. So I'm asking the board to make this a parent's choice for their own kids. If this request is not accepted, then I would recommend that we, the people, the parents, make the choice to either homeschool or enroll in private Christian schools. Thank you.
Well, good evening. Everybody needs to just smile for a second, okay? Everybody's all uptight. My name is Mike Stanek. I'm a District 181 parent of 3 children, all adopted. I'm currently a 19-year active military member with a bachelor degree in elementary education. I've spent 10 years as a recruiter in the surrounding school district, to include Brainerd. I've also substitute taught in those schools for 6 years. I went from a combat zone to a 5th grade classroom in a matter of weeks. Lost is the thought of the middle ground. I am both a believer in God and a believer of evolution of humankind. I have learned through experiences to be conservative that leans left and a liberal who leans right. As a young teenager, I was taught that honesty is a virtue and that accountability matters. When you point your finger at someone, there's 3 pointed right back at you. A great Charles Swindoll quote states, "We cannot change our past. We cannot change the fact that people will act in a certain way. We cannot change the inevitable. The only thing we can do is play on the one string we have, and that is our attitude." I am convinced that life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you react to it. And if anybody wants a copy of the whole thing, I'd greatly appreciate everybody, regardless of where you stand, to read it. Through all this stuff with equity, equality, curriculum, all the stuff that we've met with many of you, my family came up with our own motto. The Staneks strongly support the bipartisan education of diversity and inclusion through community outreach and parent-teacher collaboration. We believe in educational equity, which is fair to all students of any race and regardless of economic status. We find it imperative that transparent decisions be made on behalf of our shared interests, the students and children of ISD 181. Equity is necessary. We must give opportunity to every student, regardless of differences, the tools needed to be successful. Equity is not about taking away from one to give to another. I trust that our teachers to be the judge of their own education. You can put anybody in front of them to give any speech you want, and they are going to take away from what they want.
30 seconds.
All right, I'll just cut to this thing. Until the people in this room decide to collaborate and meet in the middle, rather than Dan Barrero fans out there will get this, Pitchfork Nation. On the right, we're over here, on the left over here. I have been a witness by working with the people sitting in front of me that they are here to listen and to collaborate with you. We're not gonna get 100% of what you want. In today's world, unfortunately, you gotta give a little and take a little. Be happy with your 51% sometimes as long as you can collaborate in the middle. Thank you. You need to just.
Hey, you mind your own business, pal.
I am, you just not.
Yeah, right.
David, yeah.
David Gedker here. My main thing that I wanted to bring up, and it's probably been covered already, but the transparency issue, these meetings that are coming up that are going to be moved to not allow the public to participate or to be involved, that is not being transparent, and I don't think that is something that I don't understand what the secrecy is, what's being hidden. And the other issue regards is in regard to transparency as well. Regarding these committee meetings and such, which we should be allowed to, the dates and times should be published so that the public can take part in those as well. So that's all I want to say.
My name is Stephanie Pontius. I'm a mom of 7, have a master's in public health, and most importantly, I have a son who'll be attending the high school next year, and I do not want him required to wear a mask. And here's why. I looked for the most recent survey of research, like all the available up-to-date research on the effectiveness of masks, and as it has already been pointed out, so these are articles that are reviews of studies, or they are articles about research studies, well-designed studies looking at the effectiveness of cloth and surgical masks in community settings. And the consistent conclusion is that there is no sound evidence that these masks are effective in either preventing transmission when worn by an infected person or worn by a healthy individual to reduce their exposure. So I believe it's reasonable to say that a mask mandate in a school setting is unscientific. Now, what caught my attention is that the authors from the University of Oxford, an epidemiologist and a professor of evidence-based medicine, pointed out that in the face of this insufficient evidence, there has been a reliance on opinion and political influence rather than pushing for well-designed studies to clarify or justify our public health recommendations. I believe that many of us here know about professionals that have been silenced, but there was a large Danish study, randomized, well-controlled, and 3 of our prestigious journals, New England Journal of Medicine, The Lancet, and the AMA Journal, refused to publish this study. Now, their conclusion was there was no statistically significant benefit of wearing a face mask. So in the culture of today, I appreciate you listening to us and doing your own research. In making your decision, please consider also that in February of 2021, Healthline published the conclusion based again on publicly available data that children appear to transmit the virus less and are not primary drivers of community transmission.
Thank you. Your time was up a little bit ago, so thank you very much.
Thank you. Very gracious of you. These are, in case you're interested, the studies.
Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Marty Halverson, and I want to speak a little, on critical race theory. Think about these three words for just a moment, critical race theory. Three words that are causing people to act in irrational and mean-spirited ways. The word race in this educational effort seems to cause considerable negative energy to arise from otherwise good people. And it is being suggested that we deny important parts of our history because they make some uncomfortable. This is irrational. Irrational thinking and behavior are all too common to us nowadays. Irrational behavior is when people threaten school officials, school boards, and their families for doing their jobs. And it is done to the degree that some feel they need to leave their job for their own safety. As an educator, if I were asked to teach the history of the automobile industry and did not mention the Mustang because I was uncomfortable with horses, I would be laughed at. As an educator, if I were asked to teach the history of golf and omitted Tiger Woods because I don't like tigers or was afraid to be alone in the woods, people would think that I lost my marbles. More to the point, if I didn't mention Tiger Woods when teaching golf history because he is black, now that would be changing an important part of golf history because of racial prejudice. What is being asked by omitting significant parts of our history because people are uncomfortable? What is being asked is to deny the fact that Native American children were taken from their homes, often in the middle of the night, under the policy, kill the Indian, save the child, a program intended to acculturate and assimilate those people in the United States that could not otherwise be conquered. In those schools, a conservative estimate is that between 4,000 and 6,000 Native children were killed in the United States. We should all be educated to these facts so that they are never replicated in any form. What is being asked in denying our history is to deny the brutality that is a part of our treatment of people of color in subjugating them to inhumane treatment as slaves. This brutality included torture, rape, and killing, a fact that we should all want to know about so that our attitudes can be shaped in a more just, loving, and inclusive way. These are only two examples of what can happen when we ignore our history. Rather, our history needs to be explored, enriched, and taught in all its glory and vainglory so that we can realize our mistakes and become better people. Whether we call it critical race theory or just plain history, doesn't matter. Explore we must. Thank you.
Hi, y'all. I'm Albert Johnson, and came here in 1974, taught at the college while I have a PhD. My daughter and children all graduated from school here. My oldest daughter's graduated Mayo Medical School. My son is a nationally known attorney. But I'm here just to say one thing, and I'm going to read a scripture. It's 2 Chronicles Can you hear me? Second Chronicles 7:14. If my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face. This is God speaking, it's Old Testament. And turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and heal their land. We are hearing so much about this virus. But if my people who are called by my name, there might be one or two Christians here, I hope, then I will hear from heaven and heal their land. To humble ourselves and pray and turn from our wicked ways. So Jesus is the answer. And I know that's just about forbidden, and there's a great movement all over the United States to stop that and to say that abortion is all right. We've had the Roe versus Wade too long. And then cancel genders. Hey, do I look like a girl? I mean, this is what's going on. And that's my concern. And I really don't think it's a concern maybe so much here. But it is and has been taking over our land. It's not it's not the race theory. It's if my people, God, will heal our land. So let me urge you to draw near to God, and He'll draw near to you, and nothing is impossible with God. Even though they slew Jesus, look what happened.
My name is Nick DeVries. I'd like to thank the board for hearing from the Brainerd community on these topics. Questions like these can be contentious, and public comment and debate should be a core ethic of how our community finds solutions to pressing issues. Last summer, my wife was fortunate enough to receive a kidney transplant at the Mayo Clinic. The medical staff, medical knowledge, and scientific research happening in our own backyard in Rochester, now mean these transplants are almost routine. While there is still a great need for kidney donors, the process, the drugs, and the knowledge is to a point where the outcomes are quite stunning. The level of care and research that is done at Mayo are unparalleled. We like to take pride in that as Minnesotans, a kind of ownership of something great. While the surgeons, nurses, and staff are the most important part of how Mayo delivers care, the roots of it is science, guided by the scientific method. Mayo, the Minnesota Department of Health, the CDC, and other leading medical and scientific organizations have verified that masking is safe and effective. They all recommend that all kids be masked when they return to school in the fall. From a recent study at the Mayo Clinic, we found objectively that masks are critically important. They're very effective at protecting the people around you. And from this, a recent meta-analysis from July of 21, published in the journal Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. Our review of the literature offers evidence in favor of widespread mask use as source control to reduce community transmission. Models suggest that public mask wearing is most effective at reducing spread of the virus when compliance is high. We recommend that mask use requirements are implemented by governments, or, when governments do not, by organizations that provide public-facing services. A recent research letter claimed to show harmful carbon dioxide levels for kids wearing masks. This letter has been retracted. The letter did not live up to scrutiny. Not all studies are equal. This is scientific inquiry at work. When claims don't stand up, they are discarded. Unfortunately, shoddy findings like this get shared widely on social media as well as on national television, and the mistakes are rarely addressed, confusing the public conversation. We live in a state where we pride ourselves on our local medical excellence. We can be amazed and thankful at the skill and scientific research that led to the procedures and medicines that very frankly saved my wife's life. But there is a massive contradiction if we take pride in this excellence while also rejecting the leading medical and scientific research and advice when it comes to masks and keeping kids safely in schools. The science and advice from public health experts is clear. Kids returning to school in the fall should be masking. This will help protect high-risk families like mine, school staff, and protect kids who can't yet make the choice to get vaccinated. Science tells us about the world, and it's up to us as a community to use that information wisely. I implore the board to follow the advice of public health experts and the leading medical knowledge of the day. Thank you for hearing me.
Evening, Ed Shaw, Brainerd. I'm the parent of 2 kids in the district, attend Lowell, great school. Be careful, I'm wearing one of those killer masks. We've heard a lot of commentary based on statements on the internet that masks are choking people, killing people, etc. And the virus really isn't that big a deal. And I don't know about you, but when I have for medical advice, I usually rely on my doctor, not what I see on the computer from a random person. I find that works a lot better, and I think most of us would agree with that. You know, we have to look at what virtually the entire medical community is saying, what the CDC is saying, what everybody who has studied this is saying. To have a minor inconvenience of wearing a mask will reduce transmission. Doesn't guarantee anything, but it improves your odds. That's what it's all about. And I doubt it's a conspiracy where every medical doctor in the country is trying to make us uncomfortable by having us wear these things. That just doesn't. There's no logic to that. There simply isn't. And, you know, it's a warm night. I wouldn't mind not wearing shoes. Hey, I wouldn't mind not wearing a shirt, but there's rules. You have to wear shoes in the schools. You have to wear a shirt. You have to wear clothes. Does that mean the schools aren't free? No. Part of living in a society means that we make some personal accommodations for the greater good. We have speed limits outside the school. I'm late for work. I can't bomb by 60 miles an hour past Lowell, even though I might want to. I don't have the choice to do that. That's how it goes. And if we're going to do what gives us the best odds of reducing transmission of this disease, wear masks in schools. It's really not that big a deal. Where this became a huge fight or controversy, it's hard to figure. But the joy of the internet, the joy of computers, there's all kinds of wacky information out there that people can latch onto. But listen to the doctors, listen to the people that know what they're doing. And that's what's going to keep our kids safe, mine and everybody else's. And, you know, sometimes you hear loud voices. A lot of people aren't at this meeting tonight. They're kind of scared. They don't want to be around a lot of people who are not taking precautions and may spread the disease to them, understandably. I'm vaccinated, but even vaccinated people have a certain amount of risk. But sometimes you have to stand up for what's right. And we have to look our kids in the eye and say that we did what was right and rational, even if there are loud voices saying to the contrary. You know, we did what was right. Years from now, we can look back and say we did the right thing, that you did the right thing and didn't give in to popular pressure and misinformation. The silent majority is with you. The silent majority here wants to be safe. Thank you. Take care.
This chair. I'm Tom Potter, concerned parent of 4. My wife had a whole long thing of here. She's a nurse, and they've already gone through all of the science behind why not to wear a mask. But I'd like to point out that we have 65,000 people in Crow Wing County and 99 deaths. I'll let you do the math on the percentage. So really, I'm just more concerned about where the fear is coming from in general. I have a father who's sick, had cancer. We simply stay away. I just want to point out that in 2017, there was 600 plus deaths. 2018, there was 724 in Crow Wing County. Can't find anything on 2019 or 2020. So basically, I'd just like to know, why are we even having this debate? Where is the fear coming from? If you're scared, stay home. Let the rest of us, let my kids be free. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Rachel Lloyd. I wasn't planning on speaking today, but I feel like you guys need to know how many of us are out there. Thank you for your time.
How many are out there?
There's a lot. There's a lot of us. I have 2 boys in the Brainerd High School, and I also have a granddaughter going into pre-K this year. Having a son in sports this past year was so hard because they were wearing masks. They were having a hard time breathing. Having my granddaughter in speech therapy, like, how do you learn to speak if you can't speak? How do you learn to speak if you can't watch what someone's lips are saying? Sorry, it's just, kids in basketball this year passed out. It was very, very, very devastating. It was devastating. It was very ugly to see this year. And I know you guys are doing the best you can, trying to make the right decisions. But one thing I wanted to know is, like, how did our local schools and out-of-state schools not have big outbreaks when they were maskless? It isn't a huge spread. Having masks isn't working. And I do understand that you guys are trying to make the best decisions, but you guys are in charge of education. As parents, we need to be in charge of our kids' health. So my kids will not be going to school maskless, or with masks. They will be going to school maskless, and if you guys choose to get the mask, they will not be in this school. And I know a lot of other people out there are planning that also. So I'm just hoping you guys make the right decision and make the decision that's best for kids' education versus people's fears. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Scott Barron. I had no intent of speaking. I filled out my card thinking then you guys get to read it. So I guess I'm going to shoot from the hip here a little bit. But I have a son who's 8 years old and goes to Harrison. I seen what it did to him and his buddies wearing masks. We all can look on the internet and find whatever side we want to stand on. I mean, there's information to support both of us. But as long as we all keep doing this, not only with the mask, but everything else, nothing's gonna happen. We gotta do what's best for our kids. And if it's all of us speaking our opinion or not, that's what needs to happen. And like I said, I can find information to argue with anyone here. We can all play the computer game, but best interest of our kids, and it's maybe not a mandate, but if you feel you need to wear a mask or your kid should wear a mask, wear a mask. If you think they work for them, let them wear a mask. If you don't want them to, don't. It shouldn't be forced on these kids. This curriculum, along with it, should not be forced on them. Some of the stuff that's getting brought up tonight, everybody's brought it up. And there does need to be more clarity from the board. But I myself have not been involved until tonight. I will continue to stay involved now. And it's good to see everybody's here. Voice your opinions, that's what we're here. That's what it's for. So I myself have not for a mandate. It should be an option at best. So thank you.
Hi, I'm Tris Cleaver, and I don't have anything written down, but I just wanted to let you know, last year I distance taught 15 kids. I had 5 that were IEP. I have parents, if they go back to full masking, I have over 20 parents who are calling me to help them because they don't know how to teach their kids. They don't know how to do the distance learning. They don't know how to do the stuff with the teachers back and forth, all the email mess. I can give you stories that are terrible. I had 5 that were IEP who are autoimmune compromised. And when they went fully masked, my kids cannot wear the masks. They have ADHD, they have Hodgkin's, there's a couple of them with a few other different autoimmune suppressives, and they would have gone back to school with no masks. The thing is that with the distance teaching, and when you get parents that do not understand all of this, which took me a lot to understand, I now have 15 or 20 parents who, if you go back masked, they're begging me to take them into their homes because they know their kids are not going to get the education they should be getting. And that's about all I have to say. So hopefully you guys will.
What was your name again?
Pardon?
What was your name?
Tris Cleaver.
Tris Cleaver. Thank you.
Yes. But I wanted to let you know that some of the trials and errors that we went through, I dealt with over 38 teachers last year trying to get into the distance learning. And it was a nightmare, a nightmare. I have 3 that slipped so far back in grades that it was unbelievable. Now, by the end of the year, I had them all up to grade standard. I only didn't have a 5th grader, a 7th grader, or a senior high. I dealt with the high school, Forest View, 2 of the parochial schools, who, mind you, were not masked, were not social distanced through the whole school year. Also, at the elementary school, 4 first graders, none of it was the same. None of it was a couple of teachers, it was completely you couldn't figure it out. And so I think the kids are really slipping through the cracks. And a lot of it is because of the masks and the social distancing and the plastic wearing. And then because we had to go to distance learning, it was required. I've got parents that don't know what they're doing. And I feel bad for their kids. So I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
I believe that's the end of public. Wow, okay. I counted 31. Okay, thank you, everyone. That concludes our public input. And I would just like to say that at special board meetings, we never have public input, and we did not change any regular board meetings to special board meetings to eliminate public input. It was due to other issues, and we always have at least one regular board meeting a month where you can have public input. So we are not trying to limit public input. That's why we sat here for the last hour and a half and listened to all of you. And thank you for your patience. And thank you for those that obeyed the time limits. And we'll go on to the next meeting, or the next item, which is the special school board meeting approval of minutes from July 19th.
I'll make the motion to approve those minutes.
I'll second.
Just quick, we have a first from Bob Nystrom and a second from Director Sjogren. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those not approved, say the same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Next up, we have the consent calendar.
I move to approve.
Thank you,
I'll
Director
second.
Hagelin.
I'll second.
The first from Director Hagelin, a second from Director Glantz. Any further discussion?
Can I make just a quick welcome?
Yes, you may.
Yeah, as you know, we've had a couple leadership positions in the school district that have been open within the last month and a half, and through a great deal of effort and going through the interviewing process, we are very happy tonight through the consent agenda to welcome some new people to our team, to our leadership team. And starting tomorrow, we have our new Community Education and Communications Director, Anne Marie Locker, who is going to be joining us. She'll be here full-time beginning on the 23rd of August. And she will be our Community Education and Communications Director. She currently serves in Detroit Lakes and comes to us with an extensive amount of experience, and we are just thrilled to have her be part of our team and to introduce her to everyone as part of our team.
Also, last week, as you all know, we've been taking applications to fill the district athletics and activities director position for the school district, which was held by Charlie Campbell. And we are very thrilled tonight to offer this position to John, or also known as Jack Freeman, who is a Brainerd graduate, coach, and teacher at Baxter Elementary School. And so we're very thrilled tonight to have a couple people joining our team at the district level, and we look forward to filling Jack's place as well with another great practitioner to put in with our children. So congratulations, and we look forward to meeting Anne Marie and having Jack Freeman. Yeah, we look forward to having them at a future board meeting. Wonderful. Okay, anything else on the consent calendar? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Next up, presentation on COVID-19 back to school, and this is informational only.
We actually have to ask your permission. There was one public comment individual that was missed and would like to speak. So would you like them to speak prior to our presentation?
Yes, that would be great.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for taking me. I'm John Erickson. I'm a graduate of this high school, and I have two daughters who graduated as well. There are approximately 6,300 students and 1,000 employees within Brainerd Public Schools. 7,300 people represent more than half the population of Brainerd. But we know that COVID and the twice as fast to transmit Delta respect no boundaries. Brainerd Public Schools, of course, reaches far beyond Brainerd. Our students come to school from over 516 square miles of central Minnesota, including Aiken, Cass, Crow Wing, and Morrison counties. All of the counties from which BPS draws students and sends students home to have what public health authorities call a high risk of transmission of COVID-19, including the deadly Delta. As of yesterday, Crow Wing County's positive test rate designated as high had increased by 90% over the last 14 days and is now the 15th highest of Minnesota's 87 counties. High positive test rates are followed by increasing death rates. The first duty of every form of government is to protect the public within its boundaries. If the public is not protected, then the other functions of government, such as educating children, will at best be compromised. Closed schools and distance learning, and at worst will be defeated by spreading illness and death and no education. America was not prepared in March 2020. We have no excuse not to be prepared in August 2021 as we face the second attack now and witness its wildfire spread in Florida, Texas, and elsewhere. In agreement with Masks in School Now, also known as best practices, are the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, the Minnesota Department of Health, the Minnesota Department of Education, and the American Academy of Pediatrics. There are good reasons why Essentia Health, the leading healthcare institution here and across northern Minnesota, requires masks. As the guardians of 7,300 people who, by their contacts and travel to and from school, expand geometrically beyond school in numbers and distances, I ask you to require masking in district facilities now, requiring the readily available defensive public health tool which you have to deter COVID and its variants before the fact, not after the fact, when the consequences of delay will include less effective forms of education and more illness and death. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I saved it for you. Oh, thanks. My mom gets really good.
Good evening. I won't be yelling 30 seconds at you. Unfortunately, I was hoping we would not have to be discussing this topic for the fall, but here we are again. So our job this evening is to bring you as much information as we can based on the webinars and the trainings that we've had to sit through. This is current as of today with the information we're going to provide with you. We want to make sure you're aware of our current summer COVID-19 response plan. I have it linked here in the presentation. This can also be found on our district website underneath the COVID-19 tab. This is how we've been operating throughout the summer with all of our students that have been in summer school programs and activities. In our summer COVID response plan, we have face coverings are strongly recommended for individuals who have not been vaccinated. We've been social distancing of 3 feet or more when possible. We have nursing staff that continues to be in all of our buildings that are monitoring for symptoms, sending students and staff home when they're sick. Our sick measurement continues to be the fever of 100. It's been how it's been pre-COVID, so we watch for that fever. If we see students or staff that have that fever of 100, they're sent home, they need to remain fever-free for 24 hours. Again, that's a process we've had in place all along. Hand washing protocols remain in place, our facility cleaning protocols, and we still have a quarantine that exists. So if we have a student or staff member that tests positive, they're quarantined for 10 days. It's recommended that unvaccinated household members quarantine 14 days from last contact with positive household members. We've also put in place those individuals that are vaccinated, they do not have to quarantine unless they're exhibiting symptoms of COVID or being tested for COVID. So again, that's the process we've had in place all summer with all of our programs running. This is just kind of give you a snapshot. So the slide to the left is what we navigated all through last year. And I remember being at the beginning of last school year recommending learning plans and models before you. We saw in August that our case counts were right around that 10 per 10,000, and that's where we find ourselves currently sitting in Crow Wing County. And speaking with Michelle Moritz, who's the supervisor for Crow Wing County Public Health, this is the data coming directly from her. So we have seen, and what she's showing us is that we've seen cases double from June to July. There's those total cases there, and you can see the number of cases in children that were 18 and younger. And you can interrupt me with any questions you have. I'll let Angie take this one.
So during the summer, up until a couple weeks ago, we really didn't have many reports at all of symptoms, positive cases in the household or individuals. Within the last 2 weeks, which is when our summer program was probably at its highest with kids and staff in the building, we have seen some new positives as well as symptoms. So up here, it talks about staff. So we had 6 absences due to symptoms awaiting test results, or someone who had a positive case in the household, and we had 4 positive staff reported. Of students, we had 10 absences due to symptoms and waiting test results, and 5 positives. Our data really is pretty limited because we've had limited staff and students in the building this summer, and we have received some reports directly from MDH. So kind of what we were seeing last spring is people are not always reporting. We still are going to get that notification from MDH if there is a positive staff and they give consent to share their name. Otherwise, we'll just get a report that there was a positive.
So really what's changed from last fall to this fall? The biggest change that's occurred has been the vaccination availability. And we have some stats from Crow Wing County. We all know last spring it was kind of a game changer for our educational staff. Teachers were prioritized, so there's a thank you to Crow Wing County, GuidePoint, and Essentia from our staff for putting them at the priority list for those who are interested in getting vaccinated. We did have a parent reference this statistic. This is the statistic that I got from Michelle earlier. At this point, 47% of all Crow Wing County residents have been vaccinated with at least 1 dose. When we look at the statistics for individuals who are eligible for the vaccine, that's individuals 12 years of age or older, 55% of residents within Crow Wing County have been vaccinated with at least 1 dose. I have linked in here 2 other links. We do have the Center for Disease Control. You can search by county and through state to get the up-to-date data there. The other thing that's happening with the Minnesota Department of Health, along with the Minnesota Department of Education, is they're running a Vax to School campaign, they're just trying to let people that are interested know that if they're looking for that timeline, August, and to be ready for school, they have it mapped out for you. So you see more information that's coming from the Minnesota Department of Health regarding that. The biggest change from last fall to now is what we've heard referenced again this evening is the Delta variant. So when people have talked about statistics, this is the most recent information again we have from the Center for Disease Control working in partnership with our Minnesota Department of Health. If you look on the left, those are the cases that were happening early spring, and that's when we started to hear about the B17 variant that we were really worried with the spread of that. If you look all the way to the far right, which is now towards the end of July, that orange represents the Delta variant. The Delta variant is what's causing over 80% now of our positive cases within our region. So what do we need to know about the Delta variant that makes it so different? So the Delta spreads twice as quickly, and the reason that's happening is because it carries a larger viral load. That's why there's concern about it. In addition, the Delta variant is actually what they're calling a breakthrough variant. So for individuals who've been vaccinated, the other variants that were running, the vaccine was showing some level of protection or insulation. We're now starting to see individuals that have been vaccinated testing positive with the Delta variant. However, the infections tend to be very mild. The vaccines are working. We have minimal hospitalizations and severe illnesses. Sorry, I gotta get this one. The Minnesota Department of Health, in conjunction with the Center for Disease Control, has been providing us with guidance for some best practices for COVID prevention in the schools. Again, they're recommending that we social distance a minimum of 3 feet. Again, 6 feet is ideal. They're recommending that we cohort students. So when we do have a confirmed positive case, we can contact trace. Contact tracing will look a little bit different this year. We used to have to contact trace and quarantine those who were confirmed around a positive case. Now what they're asking us to do is to notify. They have put an exception in the rules for contact tracing, only for K-12 classrooms. So an exception in the K-12 indoor classroom setting, if there's a close contact, students who are within 3 to 6 feet of an infected student and where both students were engaged in consistent and correct use of mask, that student would not be considered a close contact. They have all the other mitigation strategies in effect. This exception, though, does not apply to teachers, staff, or other adults in the indoor classroom. Again, recommendations, the frequent hand washing, enhanced cleaning protocols, staying home when we're sick and monitoring those, and increased ventilation, which we saw throughout all last school year. There is one federal rule in Minnesota mandate regarding face coverings that is in place. So all people are required to continue to wear a mask or face covering when on public transportation. This does include school buses. So this mandate and requirement is in place until September 13th. And at that time, it may be removed or renewed. So that is one rule we will have to comply with. We are going to have face coverings or face shields when on school buses. Other recommendations then, when indoors, it's strongly recommended for everyone. Outdoors, it's recommended for individuals who have not been vaccinated or when we're in high transmission areas and large gatherings. So a quick review again of what's being required versus recommended. There's only 2 requirements currently in place for school. The federal mandate regarding the face coverings on public transportation, like I just reviewed. And the other requirement is that when we do have a confirmed positive case, we will have to continue to report that to the Minnesota Department of Health. Recommendations that are in place are strong recommendations that masks should be worn indoors by all individuals, maintain that 3 feet of social distancing, again, exclude those exhibiting symptoms and stay home. Other recommendations include the isolation and quarantine based on a decision tree. They have not released the decision tree guidance yet at this time. That contact tracing, like we've talked about. The biggest change will be, however, we will not be quarantining whole classrooms like we did in the past, but we will have to notify families. That notification is going to look much like the fact sheet that families used to get regarding whooping cough or lice when there's a breakout. Now there's a COVID exposure fact sheet that will be sent home. So our learning models for the 21-22 school year, at this time our plan is for Brainerd Public Schools to be in-person learning with a traditional full day, 5-day per week schedule. We do have an online option that will be available if there's a period of time where a class or grade level or building needs to be out due to COVID. We will have an online instructional model that can be provided. We have submitted that application to the department, Minnesota Department of Education. Our goals and next steps, we continue to be committed to the safety and well-being of all of our students and staff. We're going to stay as up-to-date as possible with recommendations that come to us from the Minnesota Department of Health, the Minnesota Department of Education, as well as our colleagues with Crow Wing County and Cass County Public Health. We're going to be providing you as many regular updates as we can at school board meetings, and we'll put those on our district websites. Superintendent Larson will continue to address staff and families in written form as things come to fruition and as things change. We are very cognizant as an administrative team and a leadership team in Brainerd Public Schools that we have families that are in very different places throughout this pandemic, and we are doing our best to be respectful and responsive and to meet the needs of all of our families. Do you have any questions?
A couple. First one, do we know if the county on reports of positives are able to track what variant they're dealing with and if we're going to have statistics on that?
Yes. Okay. They are tracking that, and they are tracking now. They actually have it even broken down by zip code. So if you go into that tracker that I linked, you can see positive cases within zip code as well as vaccination rates.
But probably not at the district level, if that's what you're asking.
Right, but I mean, if the county's got it, that we can reasonably extrapolate from that, at least to a certain degree. The next question would be about the online learning. Can you walk us through what that looks like a little bit? Because I think people might be confusing that with distance learning.
Correct. So there is no longer distance learning. So that's been eliminated by the state. However, by putting in an online application with the Minnesota Department of Education, what they're doing is they're giving us flexibility, as well as schools in our surrounding region, if for some reason we would have to put students out. It does give us a chance to go into that online learning, which would be the Google Classroom piece. So for example, if we see a third grade classroom and 15 of the 20 kids are positive for COVID, and you see a vast majority have it in quarantine, it gives the teacher that option to flip to provide that online instruction so we don't have students losing that time where they're having to be out ill. So we anticipate that might happen at a grade level. Could it be a team? It's all dependent. We hope not. But it is giving us an option so we can continue with learning with that teacher right directly with the students.
But it's essentially reactive in the sense that the district is going to react to an environmental change due to the virus instead of, let's say, a parent wanting to opt their child into a program like that.
Correct. Correct. It is only in response to what would need to happen if we had to put a grade level or a classroom out.
I've got just one question, Heidi or Lane or whoever. I think it was about this time last year that maybe it was earlier, that at some point in time, the districts were going to be able to make decisions, and as time went on, eventually our governors mandated what the requirements are, including the wearing of face masks, so we had to comply with that mandate. And I know you keep in close contact with other districts and other cohorts. Is there any thought or reason as to why or where a governor stands now? Might this change? Is he, if the cases are rising, are we potentially expecting that he might be coming out with a mandate, or is that just totally off his radar now?
In response to the trainings we've sat through with the Department of Health and with Crow Wing County, so the Minnesota Safe Learning Plan, which is where that mandate came through with Governor Walz, is no longer in place. So the Safe Learning Plan does not exist in Minnesota. They are really allowing those decisions to be at the local education agency level. They have forewarned us, though, that if we start to see high transmission or things like that, then you may see some intervention. But at this time, they're leaving it to the local education level. So I don't have any indication. I mean,
we don't know why they're allowing it this year versus a year ago.
I think right now, because of the low cases that they've seen, they're seeing increase in vaccination. They've seen the mitigation strategies work. Okay. So that's why you saw that decrease. And again, right now, those levels are there. They're concerned, like I tried to share at least what we've been learning. I'm by no means an epidemiologist or in the medical profession, but that Delta variant, seeing that how quickly it's become the main variant, that's where they're concerned about high transmission.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure this question is on the mind of everybody that spoke tonight on the subject of masks, regardless of what their particular stance was. But we sit here tonight. We're exactly 4 weeks away from the beginning of the school year. We have up-to-date information. We know that the situation is fluid. Do we have a sense for these folks as they're trying to figure out what to do with their kids on, I'm seeing a lot of stuff in here. I mean, what I think I'm reading is just stay the course for the moment until we can't stay the course. I mean, I guess I'm looking for a little more clarity for the benefit of everybody watching.
That's exactly where we're at. So,
Back one,
yep.
or two, sorry.
So this would be where we're at. If things are going to stay on the course, and again, that's why we're staying in close contact with public health and with our Department of Health and Minnesota Department of Education, there's 2 mandates we have to follow. So that's the reporting of the positive cases and the public transportation mandate. So we don't have any decision or authority to alter those at all. Those are the things, the guidelines we have. However, we're strongly recommending individuals who have not been vaccinated to wear a mask. We're going to maintain that social distancing the best we can. Track. Again, we have nursing staff in all of our buildings. If you watch the level of work that took place last year, we were very responsive. We do have students with very unique health issues and conditions and trying to accommodate and support those. That contact tracing does become imperative because if I'm a parent and I have a child in a classroom and there's been a positive case, we need to make sure that we're notifying those families so they can make the best decisions for themselves regarding that confirmed case.
Okay, and then I think I saw the case counts in Crow Wing County, 10.82 per thousand roughly as of the last.
Yeah, and this is what gets interesting. They're no longer doing those case counts, so that was us doing our math. If you want to go back and look, what we're getting from Crow Wing County, I got to go back. It's kind of monthly totals, and that's kind of where we've just been kind of given a moment to pause with our public health, is just watching the case counts double. And so they're saying that's where we're starting to see that Delta variant and that it is more of a rapid transmission strain of the virus.
All right, so I guess my last question is this. As an administrative team, have you begun to or discussed what sort of threshold, what statistic it is that we will hit where it's time to break the glass and grab the axe?
We've had some of these initial discussions, and where it really revolves back to is when we look at other viruses that we've dealt with. So let's say whooping cough, right? So when we start to see an outbreak, we really rely on public health and the nursing staff within there to say what's happening within that setting to make those decisions. At this point, unlike last year where they gave us, if it got to 40 per 10,000, then we were recommended to shift to a hybrid model and then shift to distance. We have not had any of those.
Right, so there's no guidance from on high for that, I guess the question was.
No,
Yeah.
and so when we look at, we are going to count on the systems we have in place and be very proactive. So in whooping cough, when you have one kid get it and you start to see it go to the next kid, it starts that discussion and informing families and really looking at what's happening within that. That's what we intend to do, is to really be cognizant of what's happening within those settings.
I think it's important, and just to echo what I think Kevin's getting at is, I'd feel more comfortable if we have that threshold or at some point. And I understand what you're saying is we maybe don't have the tools at our disposal right now. But I'd love to see or hear of ongoing conversation with other school districts, same size as ours, that type of thing, about where they're at. So we're not operating either in a knee-jerk fashion, not that you do that at all, but just wanting to make sure that we don't.
I think. Yeah, so we have regional meetings. So we're meeting with administration of all 27 districts within Region 5. So that's all of our surrounding school districts around us. At this point, too, they don't have that number, right? We were all dictated what that number would be. I think it's a conversation we should engage in with Crow Wing and Cass County Public Health, which encompass the majority of our school districts within our region for that guidance. But at this point, we don't have a target number. What we do know is being very cognizant of where it's at and how that spread is so parents can be very aware and making conscious decisions.
And is there and maybe you addressed this and I missed it, but is there a dashboard of sorts, or could there be a dashboard of sorts that where parents could access and community members where they could see basically what we're seeing
Correct. So that's why when I did this presentation tonight for the board, I tried to put in as many links. So if you access this presentation, it's going to take you right to there's actually a national dashboard where you can put in the state and then also the county, as well as the county data. And then really the links that are coming from the Minnesota Department of Health with their conversations with the Center for Disease Control. So you can see they're most up to date. And that's where they're trying to continue to give us the best practice strategies as we enter into the school year. So it's all right there, but we'll continue to provide it for you. But that dashboard that's coming from the county, I think, is your most accurate, and they're updating it constantly as they get reports from the Department of Health. Like I said, they even break it down by zip code now, so you can see Baxter versus Brainerd versus Nisswa versus, if you really want to get into the detail.
I appreciate that, and I'm not pushing back on anything you're saying at all. But I'm just trying to put myself in the seat of a young parent that's chasing after kids. I have younger kids. I just tend not to chase them as much, I guess. But it's important that the community is able to easily access, I feel, this type of information so they remain informed. So for me, what I tell other boards I'm a part of is it's always difficult for me if I have to go too many steps in here, because then I just don't do it. And there's other things that I can jump to. But it'd be nice at some point, and I don't necessarily even want to put this on the shoulders of you all, but I would be curious as to, is there a easy access for that type of information that could just be out there where Johnny parent doesn't have to click 8 times?
Yep. So I think, again, Crow Wing County is keeping track. The other thing is when you look at this, it's not up there anymore, but the slide that we got from Crow Wing County. So Michelle Moritz is now back in the position where she'll be giving regular updates. In the past, it had been every 2 weeks. That was coming to school administration and leadership regarding what was happening within the county. So this would be very easy information for us once we get that information from Michelle to share. My suggestion would be we have the big COVID-19 tab on our website. We could discuss how to make that information more accessible, because then to me as a parent, when I'm looking at here's what it looked like in June, here's what it's looking like in July, as we get into the school year, we could have those 2-week updates and try to get that easily accessible for our families.
I think that'd be great, because it'd be easy for us as a board, honestly, just say, look at the COVID, get the button.
Yep.
That type of thing. So I'd appreciate that.
So I would take that under advisement. Thank you.
And then as you guys do your work, let's say case counts start to rise, which I think most people believe they probably will. As you do that collaborative meeting with other schools in Region 5, I think, it's important that the community understands that just because Pillager does something or Pequot Lakes does something, those are unique organisms. ISD 181 is a unique organism. We have to deal with the situation that we have. So is it fair to say, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but is it fair to say that when you're doing your collaboration that you're really more interested in other schools that are kind of our size as opposed to adjacent to us? Or is it some sort of mashup of all of that? Or how do you guys really see that in terms of when it's time for you to evaluate all of that?
Well, there's twofold to that question. So one, when you're looking at light size, when you have a high school of almost 2,000 and middle school of 2,000, that looks very different than Pillager High School, for example. So really looking at that, that's all those mitigation factors and what we've done. Kids are going to get used to still having to do traffic patterns and the social distancing thing. But when we're really looking at a regional, we know transmission of the virus happens regionally. So we're looking at the most recent data that's impacting us immediately in our area, regardless of size of school.
Now, fair enough. And what I was getting at was under the Safe Learning Plan, my understanding was that each district had to create their own unique plan, submit it to the state, and have it approved on the unique and specific parameters and data around that school district. So I guess it's my way of trying to use you to tell the community that just because a neighboring school district is enforcing masks doesn't necessarily mean we will, or vice versa.
I think it's
we will make a decision that's unique to Brainerd ISD 181.
Correct. I think it's going to ebb and flow. Like to predict, if we could not predict what we saw last year, to even try to say we're going to predict what's going to happen, we can't.
Okay, I'm done now.
We'll be responsive that way.
It's in a lot of respects, it's harder for us because there aren't guidelines for us this year. And so we're taking all the information that we're getting from Crow Wing County and everyone else and trying to make the best decision. Right now, we feel that we need to stay the course, just be very careful and watch the data carefully and be prepared to react if we need to, which we feel like we are.
I really feel that unfortunately we created some amazing systems last year with being able to respond, having a nurse in every school building, to have that immediate access. Michelle Moritz, who's taken the lead as the Crow Wing County Public Health Supervisor, we have immediate access to her. That's all been to our benefit.
Okay, thank you.
So is it the plan to continue to have these updates moving forward, at least while we're?
Yes, while we're through this, we'll have it at every board meeting, there'll be an update for you.
Right.
And then I'll do the same thing where we send out the letters periodically to keeping parents informed if there's any changes or anything like that as well, so. But, you know, one thing I want to add is that, and I've said this quite a lot, but one of the, probably the most beautiful thing that I learned during COVID last year is that we often wondered what the future of education was going to be with technology and such, is that in-person experience going to be as important as it used to be. And what we learned through that experience is that it's probably more important than we ever had any clue. And so it is truly our hope and dream to keep our kids with their teachers every day, all year long, if we possibly can. And we're going to do what we can, but we're also going to do our very best to ensure the safety of every child and every teacher and staff member that is in front of our kids. And so we're going to get the best information that we can to make the best decisions for all of us. Because as I heard earlier, your kids are our kids. We love kids. That's why we're in this field, and we're gonna do what's best as we go forward. And we'll keep you well informed.
I have two more questions if I could then. With that in mind, thank you. I would ask and I would assume that should data for whatever reason bring admin to a level of saying, hey, I think we need to look at mask mandate, that will come to the board for that decision. Is that correct?
At this time, that's the plan. We do need to be cognizant, though, if there's an outbreak. You know, so again, when we talk to public health, they keep referencing like a whooping cough or things like that. If there's mitigation strategies that they can recommend to keep students together, they're going to make those recommendations. To me, that would be a more immediate. If you're looking at more of a mass decision, I think that would definitely have to come to the board. But I do think there might be things where I have to respond quickly. Right now, when I hear from public health, that maybe when we have that much of a high transmission within, we're looking at actually that flip model for those groups. That student may need to go, or class may need to go out for the quarantine period to come back so they can reset.
Sure. I guess my ask is specifically if there were to be some kind of a recommended mask.
Full school mandate, absolutely.
That would come to the board for
Absolutely.
that.
I just don't want to say everyone will, because if we get a recommendation from public health that if we do this, that might keep a small group of our class together, we'd want to be able to respond to that and inform those parents within that classroom.
Yeah, and then, and perhaps we can't discuss this tonight, maybe it comes up later on, but I think you said we had 30-some parents that spoke, and I don't know that we're really providing any guidance. So as a parent, you know, I've heard if you mandate masks, I'm pulling my kids. If you don't mandate masks, I'm pulling my kids. And I don't know that we're providing, you know, short of the state or governor saying it's mandated, then we don't have a choice. That's kind of to your point, that if he comes out and says it's mandated, we don't have a choice with that. But currently today, we have that choice. And I don't know that we've provided to our community, to our parents, as far as what, if we go into choice and data goes up and cases rise, you know, what our stance and take is going to be. And I don't know if at some point in time, it seems like we've got to let our community, let our parents know how, as individuals, we stand on this one way or the other, and to provide administration where we're coming from. Because if have students in school and I'm still waiting and wondering, are they going to or not mandate mask requirements, what do I do? So I don't know if we could, it seems like we're getting closer and closer. We're 4 weeks away from school. We've got 2 weeks, which I just heard that with the special session, I forgot about, we can't have public input, so I would maybe caution against that if we're going to have it to be not debating or
The
discussing
decision,
that.
I don't think the public input matters or not, because we've had public input tonight, and the decision is ours, and it would come after public input.
Yeah.
So I think.
Hope by the time we came to a meeting on August 25th, that we would come, having done our research and be prepared to make a decision. And I don't know that having somebody speak that moment is gonna sway
No,
you,
good-
right?
good-
I mean, I
good- yeah,
think
good point.
we've
Good.
heard tonight, and people can email us. They
Yeah,
can
good
talk to
point,
us.
but I'm wondering now it's.
Still get input.
Well, I think right now, our recommendation, based on low case counts, we all understand that masks are recommended but not required.
Correct.
For all that are.
With exception of buses, school
With
buses.
exception of
That's-
buses. Yes. I think your question is, if numbers rise, at what point would the board initiate a mask mandate? Or would
Or
they
would
ever?
they?
Or
Right,
would they
correct.
ever?
Well, isn't your other question, correct me if I'm wrong, your other question is, at some point, because the next time that we have an open meeting with public input is right up against or right after the start of the school year. And so the public, I mean, this discussion should be about, at minimum, maybe a light polling of the board to see what people are thinking. Is that what you were getting at, or am I putting words in your mouth?
Yeah, I guess I heard what I needed to.
Okay, then
from-
I'll shut up.
No, from our public, but I don't
think from
know
the
that we.
public. Well, I'm not talking about the public, I'm talking about the public wanting to hear from us.
Yes, right, I
Right?
just,
That,
that's what I.
You know, because they're sitting here going, okay, no
Yeah.
news is no news. It's not bad news. We're
Right.
staying the course, but it could become untenable if we all of a sudden on the eve of, let's say, September 1st or Labor Day weekend, have to pull the trigger and implement some sort of emergency mask mandate. Now you've got people that wanted to find another alternative for their children, and we waited until literally 2 days before school starts to spring it on them. Now, we realize that circumstance is gonna kind of dictate that.
Right.
I get that. But I think to that point, I mean, you know, for my own point, you know, my understanding or I guess my wishful thinking about this session was gonna be that we would at least have an opportunity for each board member that wanted to articulate kind of what their general philosophy was. I mean, we're all getting really, really good at conveying that via email. I know I am. That's all. But if that's not the purpose tonight, then that's not the purpose tonight. But I can assure you there's probably about 80 people here kind of looking for that.
But you can have that conversation if you choose to do that. At this point, we feel that the data shows that the recommendation that we have tonight moving forward is what's best moving forward for the school.
Agreed,
We're
and
coming
I'm right
5
there with
days a
you.
week.
And I've been consistent on that. I mean, as long as the numbers aren't crazy out of whack, no masks until something gets out of whack and we have to react to it.
Yeah, I would echo that, and I think I'm understanding your thoughts there, Tom, and don't necessarily disagree with that either. I would like to get us to the point where we could put our finger on that threshold of what that is. I understand we don't have that now, but I would sure like to get to that point, and I think a lot of people would. From where I sit is, I'd really rather not mask at this point, according to what I'm being told and learned, and I've learned in my own research. But there is gonna be a point where I do have to do what is best for students. And if that means masking at some point, I'll do so, but I definitely want the data there to back that up. And I don't feel comfortable moving forward without the data of the day. And today, I'm not hearing that is something that we must do, and I'm okay with that. And I think from what Kevin, I'm hearing you're maybe saying is, it'd be nice to have a spot on the wall where the public, our community can see where that needle goes once it gets to that point that we might have to look at masking, and I'd feel more comfortable with that.
It's definitely a question I can take back to our public health.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful for the next board meeting, because I think we're all kind of at that point that right now it doesn't indicate that we need to require masks for everyone, but it may in the future if it gets bad.
Because I know the board understands this, but I think it's important to be said is we can't function off emotion. And there's a lot of emotion in here today, which personally I think is great as long as we're respectful to one another on either side. I think that's important, and we're definitely experiencing it here with both sides. And I would always advocate that we advocate. But ultimately, I want to be in a position where I don't have to function off of emotion. I'm best in that situation.
My other concern too is I think if we go back to school with masks recommended but not required for those that aren't vaccinated, and then the bus thing, that we are very intentional in making sure that those children that are masked are not made fun of by the unmasked, because I could very easily see that happening, so.
And we, so we were cognizant of that as we started summer programming. So as we did summer programs, we had staff that chose to have mask or face coverings as well as students. Honestly, they were very respectful of one another. You know, and we've had students with lots of different unique needs or medical challenges, and we do our best to respond to those. So again, we're looking at a smaller fraction, but that was a non-issue, but it is something that our administrative team has been cognizant of too, because we don't want to set that as a precedence to going forward, so.
And then the other question I have is for those people that have immune compromised family members, is there something more we can do for those families? Because they're very concerned, and I'm very concerned about their children too. So.
I agree. And those are some of the things we need to talk about at the individual level, at the individual building level, of things that we can do to help mitigate additional ways to help protect the child and
If there's
family.
any chance we could have little cohorts for some of those people that wanted that. I know that, I think you brought that up, Director Sjogren, to me too, that, and I know that's a lot of work, but.
Because you hear people on both sides have reasons for wanting to be, and I hate the side piece, but masks are not masks. But it concerns me when we have somebody sitting here saying, you know, my wife had a kidney transplant, or I have a child with leukemia, and my children won't be able to interact with one another if one is in an environment that isn't fully masked. I think that is just as important as somebody whose child has a tonsil issue from wearing a mask. I just think we can't ignore one or the other. And I know we'll never please everybody.
No, I don't know, it's not necessarily a matter of pleasing as it is responding to the need of that child.
Yeah.
And I do think there's things we can do. We've had students with medical issues in the past that we've had to do great accommodation and modification to meet their needs. And I think that's going to be one of the challenges presented to our building principals this year, to try to help support and navigate that with each of our families.
Yeah, we owe our kids the very best possible public in-person experience we can give them, if possible. I just have a hard time when I hear from parents who say, I can't send my kiddo if there isn't masking. That's a hard thing for me to sit kids behind a computer for another year. If they truly have an issue where they cannot be in school without masking.
Correct. And then they don't really have that option this year, to sit behind a computer.
Distance learning is not in place, correct?
One thing I wanted to share before you move on is that one of the things that I experienced where I work, where we're masking up now, is there's a certain feeling of defeat, I guess, a bit defeated, thinking we were past this. And I would never want to diminish that. But the amount of effort that you both, and then Lane as well, and others, in terms of doing all of these duties that are above and beyond what you're called to do, is significant. And I just want you to know, and I can't speak for the rest of the board, although I'm sure they're there as well, that sure appreciate that effort. Sure appreciate your willingness to come and educate us and to provide us data, but also those late night hours, time away from family. That's significant. I sure appreciate that. Thank you.
I would echo that 1,000%. If you look up impossible situation in an encyclopedia, there's a picture of the three of you and your teams.
I'd put every person in the educational system in that picture, because it's been a year that we really didn't want to have to repeat, but we're gonna give it our best shot and do
Yeah,
all we
there's-
can for kids this
There's
year.
no good choice.
No.
And I hope the community gives us grace because of all that too. I really do. I didn't hear as much as I wanted to tonight from the community, but you guys have put in so many hours and so much work that we appreciate it. And if you need help with COVID tracking or whatever this year, we got to get that figured out, so.
We will.
We do. We do need help.
Yes.
Can't
Need
do
to
it
figure
again.
that out.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're on to new business. And first up is for action approval of 2 containers of playground equipment for our Warrior Early Learning Center. And Reed is here. Could have sworn we did this last time, but we
What's
didn't.
that?
We just talked about it.
We just talked about it, yes, and I'm just going to keep this really short. In front of you is just a formal board action for approval of the playground as presented previously. I did reach out to Sourcewell. Again, I have not heard back from that Playworld vendor. So short of redesigning it with a different system, my recommendation to you as the board would be to move forward with our CPC contract for playground out at the Warrior Early Learning Center so that we can get that equipment installed as soon as possible here for the start of the school year.
And you'll notice that the amount on here includes the 2 containers and the installation fee.
This is all as presented last board meeting?
Yes, as presented at the
discussed,
last
yeah.
board meeting.
And the fate of the tree?
I was going to ask that, Kevin.
I got some feedback in email that from the board members here, so we'll take that into account, and that tree will more than likely be removed as part of the installation process. So, topic of the day, part B.
Can it be transplanted at Ruth's house?
I'll move to approve
That'd
the
be expensive.
expenditure as presented.
Second.
First from Director Hagelin, a second from Director Nystrom. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next up, we have discussion, direction, and approval regarding naming the current South Campus. Amy Jordan and Lane Larson. Hi.
Hi. I am happy to be here tonight. I do not have a formal presentation, I guess. I know that we just need to discuss the naming process for our new building and kind of get that underway as a part of the building and ordering the things that need to be ordered for signage and such. So here I am to kind of discuss with you guys kind of a timeline, I guess, for what that may look like and what your thoughts are on moving forward with the naming of our new building.
In the building project, we're getting to a point where we need to make some decisions on the names for the South Campus. Because of signage, both inside, outside, and even the sign for when they dedicate the building. We're trying to get most of those ordered at the same time to make it more convenient in the process. In some of the other projects, when Corey was still here, we went through kind of an extensive process for gathering input as far as the name for the facility. And it has come to my, and before she left, we just kind of stayed with the Gitchizebe, and then we've waited to take on what the naming rights were going to be for the South Campus. We're getting to a point where we need to make a decision, and we're basically here tonight to look for guidance. It's come to our attention by some people saying that they'd like to transfer the name of the Lincoln Education Center like we did with the Baxter Elementary School, where we transferred it to the new facility, understanding that the Transitions and STARS programs are there and that would have to be part of some of our signage. Or would you like us to put together a plan again for gaining input and collecting all that information? Probably when the new gal comes, to have her do it, Anne Marie. Although she'll be brand new. And so we're just looking for a little guidance from the board as to if you have any concept as to what you'd like to do for South Campus.
Well, Amy, would you be happy if it stayed Lincoln Education Center?
You know, I personally would be fine with that, but it isn't my personal decision. To go with that, I would be okay with it being Lincoln Education Center or South Campus or something that, you know, is just decided on by this group. Again, that's not.
So you have no, I was the one that mentioned, can't we
And
just name it
I would be
Lincoln
fine with it because
Educational Center?
I know that what we do there is what's important, not necessarily.
Well, and people know your program as that now.
Right, they do know our program as Lincoln Education Center, yes.
And so I think that makes perfect sense to me, but other board members?
I would suggest that when we get, is it Anne Marie?
Anne Marie, yep.
When she gets on board sometime over the course of the next few months, the two of you get together, maybe there's a small little group, you ask the community a little bit, come up with 3 names and I mean, we just went through this before and half the people don't like the name and half the people do. Let's don't.
I just don't want to make any extra work for anyone at this point.
No, but we just got to get a name, and it's not fair to ask one person what's the name you want to go with.
Right.
So if we get that small little group, we get 50 different names, let them boil it down to 3
And so that's really what we're asking tonight, is if the board is comfortable with just transferring the name, we're okay with that and we'll move in that direction. Otherwise, we want to wait till school starts and get input from some of the students and all 3 of the programs and such. But we might get behind on some of the signage pieces that, as far as the timing. And we just got behind, especially when Corey left and such. Our intentions were good to keep going and it just.
I'm fine either way, but I think Lincoln Education Center works perfectly and it's what people know the program as, and we can have separate names for the STARS program and the transition program. We can have separate signage and just go with it and get it off our plate. But if you guys want to wait and
I would echo where Tom is, although I understand what you're saying, I feel. But I would prefer we stick to a process at this point. And I agree with Tom, it doesn't need to be a big process, but a process.
Okay.
And I would just ask that in waiting, we wait till school starts, because I think we'll have more input from our students if they're in the building, and our parents, if we can, you know, solicit their feedback as well during open house or back to school letters. That's gonna be right around the corner. Yeah.
Right. So. Okay, so we can table that tonight then. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amy.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is approval to move the August 23rd school board meeting to Wednesday, August 25th at 11:30 a.m. And I would prefer noon if that would work.
12 o'clock instead of 11:30?
Because I have a Wednesday morning commitment, so noon would work better for me.
Can I just clarify too for our audience, the public is certainly invited, there's just no public input.
Absolutely.
But absolutely invited, any of those meetings are.
Thank you, yes.
Okay.
Well, and just an education piece too that I learned being a new board member, I mean, we really moved to the 2 meetings per month to accommodate updates about the building projects, correct? So historically, this board has met once a month with public comment, so really, there's been the benefit of twice the public comment opportunity due to the building projects, basically. We're really not taking anything away from maybe what was going on 3 years ago, if there happens to be a month here and there where there's one public comment session, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, and I would agree. And I would say, just again, for the benefit of the community, that this is great. Glad to have you all here. It provides an energy that an empty room during our social distancing phase did not. So whether I agree or disagree with what people said, but in the end, these other guys are gonna get mad at me for this, but keep the emails coming, because that really helps us get a feel for what your individual thoughts are. It sort of gets lost in the shuffle when there's 30 of you up here speaking. And so I think that the idea of having it once a month, sure, show up and public comment your hearts out on that once a month thing, but yeah, we're not taking anything away that was.
Yeah, I'd like to, just because we do have a couple, or maybe 3 board members from when it happened. We were always one board meeting a month. And at the time that the referendum passed, because we knew that we had a lot of business things to do with the building projects over the course of the next couple of years, we had said that for the next couple of years, our calendar would change to, and we didn't have a spring break and some of that. You've noticed that the calendar has gone back to the original calendar. Same thing goes with the board meetings, that it was supposed to be one full board meeting, and the second one we were asked to just do the business items and keep it super short. Well, we've really failed at that. We've gotten to two full board meetings during this, but the intent of the second board meeting really is to accommodate the building project. And so in January, it's most likely that we'll go back to the regular schedule with the one full board meeting and then special board meetings as needed. Because our Summer Slam projects will be done with the building project. But again, it'll be up to the board to decide that.
To that, just one quick question about the scheduling. I mean, is the daytime, as opposed to a normal 6 o'clock meeting, is there a prevailing rationale behind that? I only bring that up because those are exceedingly difficult to move things around for, where evenings are not. And I know, like in this particular case, it's due to the potential lack of a quorum. Well, I might not make that one, so we may not have a quorum for Wednesday the 25th either.
And now that I think about it, it was the second one that I needed to move, because this one I won't be at either.
Yep, you won't.
So,
But
wasn't this
some of
one.
the others can be. But let me look at my calendar.
But to further clarify, when we had only one monthly meeting, we also had committee meetings as needed. And those too were open to the public. Those we had, I think, at 12 o'clock or so, trying to accommodate. Maybe it works better. Maybe some public can come then versus.
I mean, I'm fine either way.
I
was just trying to understand the logic. Thank you.
I mean, that was to try to kind of break it up a little bit in hopes that it allows for a little bit more public.
Okay.
I think for me, the evenings always work a little better. Then I'm not wrestling with my work schedule and that, but I can also adjust.
So on August 23rd, can people be there, and it can remain at 11:30 for that one if you prefer, because I won't be there.
So what's on the table? I'm sorry.
August 23rd board meeting during the
So
day.
are we going back to the 23rd?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry, August 25th, yes.
Oh, okay.
Okay, August 25th. There's a lack of a quorum on the 23rd, but on the 25th.
Potentially a lack of quorum.
Okay.
So
I can double check and get back to you guys.
Or would you rather make it an evening meeting?
For this particular one, I'm not overly concerned. As you guys well know, I'll make every attempt to move my actual day job stuff around as much as possible, but sometimes I'm speaking at a conference and you can't reschedule when you speak to people.
Well, I could do either, for that day, I can do noon or evening. Preference would probably be evening, but I could do I can be there on the 25th, if that helps.
Doesn't matter to me. You know, either time's fine.
It's up to you guys. I can do either one that day.
Okay.
We will have a closed session that day, most likely, for a couple issues that are coming up.
Okay. So preference, can we leave it at noon then?
That's fine.
I would, and then I'll see what I can do. At minimum, you've got 5, which is quorum plus
I got
1.
4. Okay, 4. You have 4, I won't be there.
Oh.
What's a quorum? I mean, I understand
4
what
is a quorum.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, so motion to approve, moving it to August 25th at noon is what I heard? Okay.
So moved.
And I'll second that.
Okay, first from Director Nystrom, a second from Director Boyles. Any further comments? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Ma'am, could I ask you one question, please? You know, he said something about these parents, not just here, but the parents in the community. They have 4 weeks, ma'am, sir, gentlemen, you people. They have 4 weeks to get their children ready for school. and you're not gonna give them an answer of what you're going to do, so they know how to prepare for their families and their children?
I think we did provide the best answer we could at this time.
What was the answer, masking or no masking?
The answer is that we're going to strongly recommend that students that haven't been vaccinated wear masks. We're going to put in place the mitigation strategies, the 3 feet, do the cleaning of the rooms and things like that will be 5 days a week, full days. And so it'll be as close to normal as we possibly can, but we encourage people to wear wet masks if they want to, but we are not mandating them at this time.
So kind of causing actually division. So the ones that know they aren't, and the ones that know they're not, they are.
I think we're doing exactly what many people asked us to do, is to give people choice.
Choice?
And that's what I believe that we've done in this decision.
Okay.
And I heard several people ask for choice. And I feel like at this point, because we don't feel that we have to mandate, that we're trying to meet as many needs of our families as we possibly can.
Okay.
Honestly, there's nothing we want more than to have our kids back with us every day. And we're gonna do our best to try to make that happen. Now, if something happens that there's a mandate that comes in or something, we'll keep you well informed.
Okay, thanks for letting me speak.
So we're on, I think, did I do a roll vote on that? Okay, so we're on to the next. Approval of resolution providing for a public hearing on August 25th to consider granting a proposed property tax abatement as revised and presented. And there you are.
Yes. So at the previous board meeting, you guys had already presented this. However, the notice has to be in 10 days prior to the hearing, and it would not have been. So I'm presenting this new resolution, which basically takes away the old one, replaces it with this, and we would have the public hearing at the 25th. In the resolution, I do have at 11:30, so if we are going with the noon, I just ask that the approval is with the amendment of 12 o'clock p.m. to adjust.
Okay. Thank you.
Any questions on that?
So I'll make a motion that we provide a public hearing on August 25th at noon.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, so we have a first from Director Sjogren, a second from Director Hagelin. Any further discussion? Hearing none, this is roll call vote. Janet?
Kevin Boyles?
Aye.
Tom Hageland?
Yes.
Ruth Nelson?
Yes.
Bob Nystrom?
Yes.
Jana Sjogren?
Yes.
Charles Blacklands?
Yes.
All in favor?
Thank you.
Thank you. And next up is Mr. Murtha with IOWA reauthorization.
Thank you, Director Nelson. This is the annual renewal of the individual officer with authority. What this is the identified person in the school district who grants submission rights and permissions for the data gateways at MDE's data collection system. So this is how Marcy submits her finances. This is how Ms. Anderson, the MARS coordinator, submits MARS attendance and DERS data. This is how special ed submits its third-party billing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So all the mechanisms that flow through MDE, there's a gateway that we restrict permissions to certain individuals of the district. They have to go through me to get to that. You authorize me annually for that.
Also move that.
Thank you, Director Nystrom.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Director Boyles. Any discussion? Hearing none. This does say it's a resolution,
Correct. This is a resolution.
so we need a roll call.
Yes, ma'am.
Janet, roll call vote.
Tom Hageland?
Yes.
Ruth Nelson?
Yes.
Bob Nystrom?
Yes.
Jana Sjogren?
Yes.
Charles Blacklands?
Yes.
Kevin Boyles?
Yes.
All in favor?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we're looking at the first reading of MSBA Policy 412, expense reimbursement.
All right. So this policy, it's been a little while since we've taken a look at it. And I just want to point out a few new things and a few things that we've been doing, but now we're just putting it into the policy in writing. So the not being reimbursing for alcohol, that's not new, that's a statute, but I am putting it into the policy. The not reimbursing for sales tax, that is new. So we do get reimbursements done by staff that they submit for reimbursement and there's sales tax on that. And I'm trying to strongly encourage staff to just order through our processes, use POs, get invoices from vendors, don't be doing personal reimbursements. So one of the items I would like to add on there is that they would not be reimbursed for sales tax if they make that purchase personally and submit for it. I'm also updating that it can be done electronically. We can do that through our software, so it is not just a paper form anymore. Within 60 days, we've had some pretty, some submissions where they've gone for the summer and they come back in September and they're submitting and it's actually for the prior year. So I would like to get the 60 days in there. Requests for travel being processed after the date of the occurrence. So if you're registering for an event or a conference and it's not until, say, a month later, you wouldn't be reimbursed until after the event, so that in case of cancellation, we won't have to worry about trying to recoup those funds. Again, trying to encourage staff just to use district processes and procedures, not putting it on their personal card. The reimbursement for meals, so the amounts are not new, the $10, the $15, and the $25. The definition is new. We are trying to add some more definition to that. And there was a $50 maximum meal day. So if you were to go to a conference and you had the 10, the 15, and the 25, you potentially could get the $50 for supper only. I'd like to eliminate that just because it is more administration to take care of that. And then there also is a tip maximum on there to try to limit the amount that is submitted for reimbursement on that. And the business mileage rate from the IRS, that is just standard. It's just getting it in writing. And also the no travel reimbursement from the employee's site of work from his or her home, that is new in there as well. And then you can see in the airline travel credit, we've had some discussions about when a purchase is made for the district, any rebates, I think of Menards, right? You get your 11% back. That is the district's if it's a district purchase. So you can see that I clarified it's not just airline travel, it's any type of credit that is earned on a district purchase is for the district to use on future purchases. And I would welcome any feedback on this. This is the first reading, so if there's anything in here you guys want to discuss, we can talk about that and then get it in for the next reading.
Vast majority of what you just outlined is already in place in most private sector expense policies. Except maybe at Lindar.
I second what he said, except for the last one. No, thanks for, I would agree. I mean, it's just common practice, so I would approve to move this first reading.
Now second.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have a first from Director Hagelin, a second from Director Boyles to approve the first reading of MSBA Policy 412. Any discussion? Is the 10% tip, is that normal?
So I looked at St. Cloud's and that's what they had for a maximum. Again, if you guys feel it's too low, we can increase that, but.
For a school district, that's high enough.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I do have in there that if it's a mandatory tip, it'd be reimbursed. Because if you're a large group, sometimes you don't have a choice on the tip.
Okay.
If anybody tells my wife that I supported the 10% tip top, I'll deny it.
Well, let the record show.
She's a past server, so.
Yeah.
And they can choose to tip more than that, but they will only be reimbursed.
I'm with you, Ruth, and it makes me cringe a little bit when I think about our service industry being good to us for events, and we go to them and ask for donations for events and that sort of thing. I want to go on record saying that makes me cringe a little, saying we're capping at 10%.
What would you like it at?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Well, 20%, I
I'd say
think.
20%.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, really, we look at, Tom, what kind of tipper are you?
But those are my dollars, so that's
I
fine.
understand. I'm putting it out there for discussion. I'm not, I mean, I won't die on the sword, but.
Because as an individual, I can still do 10% and I can still give them $5 more or,
Sure.
you know, some more if I wanted to.
That's true. Yeah, we aren't limiting people's ability to do it, but I just.
No. And I would agree, you know, 20% is very nice. They work hard, but I think as an individual, I can do that.
Maybe some context for me on that, not to belabor this issue, I know it's late, but like, I work at the college, so at the college, I'll roll into places with like 30, 40 students and then put that on the wait staff, and that's partly where I'm coming from to cap that at 10%. It's difficult for me.
And a lot of times, if you do have that large group, they will give you or make you do a mandatory tip, which could be 20%, and that would be reimbursed on this policy. Mm-hmm. Yep.
We have a first and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Those opposed, same sign.
I would oppose that.
Okay. Okay, so 5 in favor, 1 opposed.
You don't want us to tell your wife, do you?
Such chicken.
I gotta go home tonight.
So with that feedback, I mean, would you guys, I know that there's a majority there, but I mean, a compromise, would you like to see at the next reading a 15%, or you're fine with the 10? Just to clarify.
I'm not gonna die on the vine with this, so
Okay.
let's
I'd like to see 15%.
Okay.
move on.
I would be okay with 15%. I like that better than 10.
10%.
Okay.
Oh, we have a 3 here.
What? That's fine. I'll go with 15%.
Okay, let's,
That's, again, the norm in my world,
okay.
Yeah, thank you for the feedback.
although I've approved higher.
Thanks, Marcy. I like you watching our dollars and cents, though.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, on to the next, approval of second and final reading of MSBA Policy 421, gifts to employees. And so this is the second and final reading, so unless anyone had any comments or changes, we can just proceed. There
I'll
were
make a
no,
motion to approve.
okay.
Second.
Okay, so first from Director Shogun, a second from Director Nystrom, was that?
Yes.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign, motion carries.
Thank you.
And then MSBA Policy 524, as required for annual review, Internet and acceptable use and safety policy.
There's no changes asked for this year. So do you have any questions on current policy? Okay.
No? Okay.
I will move for the approval of MSBA policy number 524 as presented.
Second.
First from Director Boyles, second from Director Nystrom. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign, motion carries.
I tell my children often, I don't want to hear from Sarah Porish on what's going on your computer.
Right.
So.
Appropriate.
Okay, and final action item is, and this is the one that I would prefer to have at noon, is to move the September 27th regular board meeting to a special board meeting on the 29th at noon, if that works, or do we want to go in the evening? Is that going to be a concern?
This far out, it's not an issue for me.
Okay.
I can do noon.
Noon?
That's fine for me.
I'll be at the MASA conference on Monday, so that's why I'm asking for this adjustment.
Okay. So a motion for noon on September 29th?
So move.
Thank you, Director Boyles.
Second.
Thank you, Director Nystrom. First from Director Boyles, second from Director Nystrom to have our second meeting of the month on September 29th at noon. And it'll be a special board meeting. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And we're on to informational business services report. Nothing? Okay. Superintendent's report.
Mine is very, very short. First of all, I just want to take this time to thank Bob and also to thank Ruth for taking over as chair. You've done a really nice job, and so just want to thank you for your service this year, and just so glad that you're going to stick with us and be here as a director on the Board of Education. So thank you very much, and to all the board members for moving up and as that rotation goes and filling in those positions. I thank you very much. Finally, on the 23rd of August, I know that we moved that meeting because some people had conflicts, but I was wondering if the board wanted to take it later in the afternoon to go see some of the buildings, or does that get difficult? The last time, people weren't able to make it very much, but I want to make it available if you want to do the tours.
That gets tough to have more time out of the afternoon for me.
Okay. All right, then we'll just pass on it, but.
But that's just me. I mean, others should comment as well.
Well,
What buildings?
well, we would do, what the plan would be Garfield like at 2:00, Lowell at 2:30, Riverside at 3, and then the high school and South Campus at 3:30, because that one will take longer because it's 2 buildings. So,
If others would go, I would do that.
okay.
And this would be, you're talking about August?
The 23rd, because we don't have a board meeting that night because some people can't make it. But Damien said that he was willing to give tours if people wanted the tours.
Yeah, for me, it's the first day of classes,
Okay,
so it'd be tricky for me.
And I wouldn't be available, so.
okay, all right. Okay.
Maybe we can visit them when school's in
We'll
session.
do it another time, yeah. Perfect,
That would be nice.
great. That's all.
Okay, so going on to future meetings. The continuous improvement plan retreat is tomorrow at 8 a.m. and school board members are invited. If you're, I think 3 of us are going.
Good.
So, new teacher breakfast, 8 a.m. on August 23rd at Forest View. Regular school, no, special school board meeting, August 25th, and that'll be at noon.
Yeah.
Then the workshop week for staff and the next week, and then Labor Day, district offices are closed. And then the first day of school, I think Janet will send out invitations to each of us to be at an elementary school that day.
And also, I want to bring up that the week of workshop, it's different this year. So the big kickoff will be Thursday morning, I think at 8 o'clock. We'll let you know for sure, but it's at the Gitche
Okay.
Center. It will not be Monday morning like it has been in the past. We're going to let teachers get into their classrooms a little bit, especially with all this construction and late access to their rooms. So we'll do the kickoff on Thursday, September 2nd. And I would really like to have the board there if you can be there.
And, yeah, and then you can see we're gonna have grand opening celebrations later, in September, hopefully.
Yeah.
Okay. So now we need to go into a closed meeting, pursuant to Minnesota State Statute, Section 13D.05, Subdivision 3A, for evaluation of Superintendent Larson. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
A motion from Director Nystrom, a second from Director Hagelin. Any further discussion? Hearing none.
9:05.
I guess, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.